I am calling to order the Monday, February 24th meeting of the Norton Charter Commission. 7 members are present. Dave Heaney will be absent this evening. Keith Silver is going to be joining us late. He has to present before FinCom. Nobody is in the gallery, so we'll move on from public comment. And don't need to ask about recording. We will review the minutes of Monday, February 10th.
There was a change, you can see where on the second page, where I boxed around, it's kind of highlighted too, but it didn't show up. The wording was just off. I think that makes sense what I wrote, so I changed it a little bit from what I sent out.
That was the only change?
Change it.
Okay. If everybody's had a chance to review and there are no objections, I will take a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting of Monday, February 10th, 2020.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Unanimous. We've accepted the minutes of February 10th. Okay, moving on, we have space, as people are aware, has gotten kind of interesting here in town. So, just to make you aware, on the meetings in the month of March, which are the 9th and the 23rd, the library has been kind enough to give us their space. So just make note of that. In April 6th, we are meeting at the Norton Media Center. April 20th, went where now? Oh, we had to move it, that's school vacation week, right? So we're meeting on the 13th, right?
Yeah.
That meeting is at the library. Then, May 4th, we are meeting again at the Norton Media Center. And we rescheduled from May 18th, which is town meeting, to May 19th. However, we are a bit stuck for space. So I meant to call Michelle Brown to see if the Board of Selectmen room is available that night as it stands, but I'm wondering if we should just forego it and find something else in the event we can't use it. So Norton Media Center nor the library was available that night. However, the library said if we wanted the 21st of May instead, she was going to pencil us in. But I wanted to check with people and see if the 21st in lieu of the 19th happened to work for everybody, which would eliminate having to find space on the 19th.
I cannot do the 21st.
Okay.
I have a suggestion for the 19th.
Okay.
I can check on the police department's
Which month is the
training.
19th?
Great.
Who's got to set up some more of this, and there's plenty of room.
Spot for 10?
Plenty of
Okay.
room. So
Excellent.
I'll check with my chief, and I'm sure he'll be okay with it. We usually don't have too much going on at night.
Excellent.
Everyone's all right with that.
I don't think anybody's got any issue about where we actually meet, as long as we have a space to meet. Okay. All right. So action
I'll check on
item,
that.
Kevin will check on police department conference room being available on May 19th, and we will meet there. After that, we're supposed to be in the Board of Selectmen room, but that's to be determined, so we'll see how that all plays out.
So I apologize.
That's okay.
The April meetings were what days again?
April is April 6th and April 13th. We had to do them back to back because April 20th is school vacation weekend and a number of people were not available.
And one of those was the library, one of them was here?
Yeah, Norton Media Center is the 6th and the library is the 13th.
Okay.
So, thank you both to Jason at the Norton Media Center and Lee at the library for being very accommodating. Okay. Any other admin items to discuss right now? I think we're all set. We'll worry about meeting rooms in June then. Okay. Moving on, we have a few remaining decisions pertaining to specifically the executive branch. And let's start with which department heads we would like town council to have approval of the town manager's hiring. That make sense? I believe in the last meeting, Lauren Goldberg had indicated that they are typically the larger budget department heads incurring the largest budget and the more front-facing departments. She gave the example of police, fire, a finance director, town planner, although a couple of other department heads were added in there. I think it was town council. Has anybody given any further thought to the department heads that they would like to see town council have approval over? Not everybody at once now.
I was fine with Denise's suggestions.
To recap, Denise had suggested police, fire, and these are the chiefs. The town planner, she had the highway superintendent.
Whatever we call it, right?
Okay, yeah. Treasurer,
That's what we call it in our bylaws today, actually.
the,
Highway superintendent.
yes. I guess we can talk about that when we get further into the, whatever that lines up.
Yeah.
Treasurer and water sewer superintendent, again, based on further discussion a little bit later. Did anybody have any additions to or want to take any of those hirings out of that?
No, and are we talking about actual approval or sort of refuting?
I think the
Once the
way
decision
Lauren
is
had
made.
asked us,
I
I
can't
think it's
remember.
within the minutes, and the way Lauren had asked us to word it was, if the council doesn't act within a certain number of days to disapprove
Yep.
the appointment, then that appointment is automatic.
Yes, I started here somewhere.
Yeah, it's within the minutes, it's actually right above the section that Sandy had amended from the minutes.
14 days now.
Yeah. Which I'm comfortable with and I think gives a little bit, some more leeway, but more autonomy, I guess, to the town manager.
Yeah, I like it that way too.
Just for clarification,
Yep.
so they automatically have to wait the 14 days, or can they just take a vote to
So,
move it
the way I would
before then?
foresee it is the town manager would report a hiring to the town council, probably when the offer's been made or accepted, and then the town council has 14 days to disapprove of the appointment.
So automatically, we're gonna be waiting 14 days regardless.
No,
Yes.
could
They
approve
could,
it-
they could waive your
approve
right,
it
they could
sooner.
waive their right to do
Yeah.
that before.
Right,
the
they
vote.
could approve it
Yeah.
sooner.
They could.
Okay.
Right, that's what you, yeah, I would agree with
I'm
that.
just saying,
what we're getting at?
yeah, just because if,
Like if they're okay with it, they can say.
exactly, so there's no.
It could be
there's no
same
waiting.
day
You don't have to hold it up for
Right, yeah.
14 days.
Yes.
Yeah, if he brings it to the thing and then they have to say, okay, we're gonna discuss it this meeting and take a vote next meeting, and it's only 7 days away, why would they have a whole nother meeting when they could just take a vote and get it
Yeah.
done, you know?
But better that way than having to wait for their actual approval.
I agree.
Okay. Or sooner if approved.
So the only other thing I would say is obviously we got the DPW
Right.
highway superintendent / water, depending on how that goes.
Yeah.
I would say both of those should be included in there if it stays the way it is. If it doesn't, it would just be a
Yeah.
DPW director,
A
Right.
director of some sort.
whatever we
Agreed.
name it,
Yeah.
Yep.
depending on how the next discussion goes.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Is everybody in agreement with that? Anybody want to talk about it a little bit more?
They're exercising hard now.
They are.
Police
I
chief,
think it's a kickboxing class.
police chief, fire chief, DPW director, finance director, town planner, and treasurer. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, are we going to call it a finance director, or are we going to call it, in the, Denise had suggested treasurer?
I think I pulled the titles right off of
Yes.
what we had here.
And from what I understand, and a lot, I think even remembering talking to the, well, actually, maybe it was the accountant.
Well, we have
Wow.
Which
an,
role is
Yeah.
typically the finance director? I thought that was
We
the
have an
accountant.
we have a town accountant and we have a treasurer. So,
Right, so she was suggesting that the accountant is who the town council would appoint versus the town manager appointing.
Okay. And which would
I think in
act
the
as a
minutes it's called
finance
the-
director in a perfect world?
So today, we don't have a,
We have to decide whether we want to put that in our charter.
Okay.
oh yeah, I wrote town accountant in writing, so today we don't have
Okay.
a town treasurer, that's the problem.
All right, yes.
Well, we
So
have-
we
we
have
have
a
a
I do a
treasurer.
treasurer,
I
okay.
think
But he
it's
is not a
the
finance
accountant or
director.
auditor, depending, like, he said that the title is sometimes different depending on what form of government it is.
Okay.
so if we
Auditor
change what we call the town accountant, which is Mr. Puello,
versus- Right.
and change his title to finance director, we could have that appointed by TM with approval of town council.
No, that
Right, well,
would
what
be-
Lauren was suggesting was that we would have him appointed
He's
by town
appointed directly by the
council.
town
Okay.
council.
But
And
the
that
treasurer
treasurer
be-
would be
okay.
appointed by TM.
Okay.
And we can discuss the title of finance director versus accountant at a future
Yep.
date. I don't think that is being too onerous. Okay, so I think if we're in agreement, the chair will accept a motion to accept a town council, the right of town council to disapprove an appointment of the following department heads: police chief, fire chief, planning director, highway superintendent, or DPW director, whichever we decide on, what is currently known as the treasurer, and potentially a water and sewer superintendent, again, subject to further discussion this evening. Town council would need to disapprove the appointment within 15 days of being notified by the town manager of the appointment, and they have the opportunity to approve it sooner than the 14 days allowed.
So moved.
Sorry, that was a really long motion.
That was
I
long.
know. I'm sorry. That was Laura. How would you phrase
Maybe
that?
rewatching it.
I don't know how to phrase that any easier. Less wordy? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What I just said, I'll take a motion on that.
Carry
So
the-
moved.
Yeah. I'll-
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All of those in favor?
Aye.
So much easier with not having to do this roll call. Okay, that is unanimous by a vote of 7
So
out
who
of
was the
7.
second? Terry was first, who was second?
Second.
It's
Oh, Kevin.
Okay. And again, we're gonna get this section from Lauren as a whole. If, there's something in there we need to tweak, we can bring it up again. Just because we voted on it doesn't necessarily mean it's done.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we've got department heads. The chair will accept a motion that town council will be responsible for appointing what is now known as the town accountant, potentially to be renamed finance director. and they had unilateral appointing authority.
And the other position was going to be their clerk, right?
Council's clerk.
Council's clerk.
Yes. Should we take those in the same motion?
The council clerk could be possibly in conjunction with the town manager if,
It could be. So the town clerk could be the clerk of town council. I think we talked last week and determined that it would probably benefit town council to have their own town clerk. And I think she had specified subject to appropriation of funds or availability of funds, is how she had put it.
But it's, I think Kevin's asking,
she said something.
She said jointly, they would make the appointment to,
So they
for the
said,
town, for the clerk of the town
Town
council,
council.
that
Yeah,
it would be
she
with the
suggest-
guidance of the town manager.
like, take his opinion into
Because he's the one who's gonna be
consideration.
working with him or her.
Yeah, in the minutes it says the role could be served by the town manager, the town clerk, or the council's clerk. Suggested writing in the charter that if a position is funded, then the town council can have its own clerk, but if not, the town clerk is responsible for the duties. He also suggested the council should consult with the town manager before appointing a clerk. The town manager will be the person working with the clerk on a day-to-day basis, and that's when she brought up, like, they're gonna have to follow the guidelines of,
Okay, so do we want
An
the
employee of
town
the town.
manager to have the same 14-day disapproval period of the town clerk, town council clerk?
I thought it was more just in consultation, I don't think, did we need his vote, or just, they were talking to him?
I just think we can, if we, my opinion is if we work with he or she to find somebody that's going to fill that role, and then under the duties, that clerk will know that the boss, the day and day when the town council's not around, is going to be answering the town manager. Just so they don't have those things as well. They told me I can leave at 2 o'clock today. Like, you obviously got to follow the rules of the other employees. You are a town employee.
So I think she just had said in consultation that it doesn't
Okay.
have to be a,
Yeah.
Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Okay. We're good? All right, so Chair will accept a motion to have town council unilaterally appoint what is known as a town accountant, potentially to be known as a finance director, and to appoint in consultation with town manager, a clerk of the town council.
If it's funded.
If funded, yes.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, 7 out of 7. Okay. All right, let's move on to the multiple member bodies that we want town council to be responsible for appointing. Did we start this discussion last week?
I don't think so. We were still working on town manager powers and whether or not to move everything that we currently have assigned to the select board to the town manager.
Yeah.
Because we talked about the town manager responsibilities in our current charter, but not the select board responsibilities.
Okay. Hi, Keith. You got up quick.
Yeah, not bad.
So the multiple member bodies that are currently approved by the Board of Selectmen are, there's a lot of them.
So,
Was there any that we wanted to specifically
I'd say-
not turn over to the town manager and have town council responsible for appointing?
And I think they're mostly executive functions, so my gut is to let town manager do the appointing, but
Well, he appoints the accountant.
No, but I mean, the multiple, because if the Board of Selectmen is doing it now, it would be an executive function.
Yep.
Do we have any extra agendas?
Yes,
down
Sandy's
there?
got some.
All right.
You got it?
So in the bylaws today, it only talks about how often they meet, they have to be in compliance with open meeting law, quorum, fillings of vacancies.
Right, so right now, our present Board of Selectmen has the appointing authority for, these are voluntary boards, Board of Health, Conservation Commission, Board of Registrars, ZBA, Council on Aging, Industrial Development Commission, Commission on Disability, Cable Television Committee, which I think they actually make up the television committee. Cultural Council, Historic District Council, Norton Historical Commission, the Cemetery Commission, Solid Waste Advisory Committee, which I don't think we have, and Parks and Rec.
So I don't know that we need to include all of these in a charter.
No,
Does
but
anybody disagree with
do
that?
we want, I think that the discussion is, as these are presently appointed by the Board of Selectmen, which is the executive branch then becomes the town manager. And is there any multiple member body appointments that we would want to remove from that authority and give it to the town council?
Well, I'm looking at the other charters, and most of them have confirmation by town council.
Okay.
So town manager appoints,
Yep.
the town council confirms.
Is it done in the same manner as we just discussed with the department heads? Or is it
It's all over the place.
they have to
Southbridge-
weigh in?
Well, Southbridge is subject to confirmation.
Okay.
So, yeah, Palmer says 14th day.
So shouldn't it follow what their responsibilities are? So for instance, legislative versus executive. To me, legislative would be like the ZBA.
I would agree.
I'm not sure what else in that list, but I have to think again. So,
Yeah.
right, if you think about like where it kind of fits under, is it
Where
legislative?
the policy would be set.
Yeah.
I mean, it specifically says in our own
Conservation.
charter, it says, unless otherwise specified in this charter, members of the multi-member boards, bodies and functions of which do not involve direct operating responsibilities, but are primarily policymaker advisory in nature.
Right, so the policymaking is executive.
So they made sure that, none of these boards are appointed by Board of Selectmen that have those types of things.
So do we want the town council to have any authority to appoint any of these specifically? Is still the question at hand. Or do we just simply want them to have confirmation or disapproval authority?
I think because they're going to be setting sort of policy agendas, that it should be town manager with confirmation, possible confirmation or refutation of the town council.
I'm sorry, I missed the end of that.
So, appointment by the town manager, but approval or, refutal.
Confirmation or-
Yeah, or by the town council.
Okay.
I think I agree with that. I think it allows the town manager, for instance, if there's multiple people that are volunteering for these things and he needs to make decisions, he can review resumes during the day, he can do what he needs to do due diligence instead of inundating the town council on one night to try to, have a hiring committee or a search committee if there's going to be multiple people to a board. I think the town manager's in a better position to figure out if again, a lot of these, they're not even full, so people are volunteering, they're gonna get pretty much put in. I mean, the ones that aren't, and the ones that are gonna have, you know, I think the town manager's in a better position day in and day out to do this. I agree, though, I like the fact that it's not just a blanket yes for everybody. Go to town council and get approval. I personally don't think we need to put this 14-day stuff on something like this. I just think it's the next available meeting, they can be on the agenda. Town manager can present why they're appointing so-and-so to what committee, and they can make a vote.
Well, I think there's a deadline in there so that somebody has an opportunity to raise an issue, and if they don't, it's deemed approved. I think there needs to be some deadline, otherwise it's kind of a little too open-ended.
They do the same thing, do 14 days, so they can move on.
Yeah.
And if nobody raises any qualms, it automatically goes through, but they have the ability to get it done that meeting if need be.
Yeah,
So they can approve it sooner?
yes.
Just like, okay.
Yeah, North Attleboro had written it, they had within 21 days of notice of such appointment, vote to reject the same or sooner confirm, meaning they had the opportunity to either reject or accept it with earlier than, in their case, 21 days, but do we agree 14 is a reasonable, if we're allowing 14 for department head, 14 should be reasonable for a multiple member body?
Yeah,
I think so.
In agreement?
yeah.
Okay. All right, so the motion will then be that for all multiple member bodies that are currently appointed by the Board of Selectmen will be appointed by the town manager, subject to confirmation by town council within 14 days or sooner if they choose to vote to approve or reject the appointment.
Can we just say for all multiple member bodies? Do we have to say
Specific one?
specifically? No, I'm saying ones that were appointed by the Board of Selectmen. I mean, now they'll all be appointed by.
Yes,
town manager.
as opposed to the ones that were appointed. Do we have any multiple member bodies that were appointed by town manager currently? It's either elected or appointed by BOS, there's no town manager. Okay, so then yes, it is all of them. Okay. So yes, as revised by Sandy, I'll take a motion for that. Or I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, 8 out of 8. Okay. Out of the, referring to the sheets that Sandy had sent around, Sandy had drafted and I sent around with the agenda. With regards to, sorry, now I have to find it. The existing duties and responsibilities of the town manager. Were there any in there that we wanted to amend based upon variations in wording from other towns?
So I'll definitely not list as many as what we have here. You talk about this list here, the list of the,
Yeah, so there were 2 lists that we had sent around. So the one was a list of
I'm sorry, I totally missed
the
that.
existing
what is that from?
town manager powers and duties.
Oh.
And then there was a second list of powers and duties that were in other charters and not in ours.
Can we
Sorry.
start with the ones in our charter that we want to
Sure.
get rid of, and then see if
Okay.
we-
Knock that off.
Oh, they were links, okay, I totally missed these.
I had 3, potentially 4 Yeah, I have 4 out of the, and again, I hate adding to the existing list because I think the existing list was very unwieldy. But there are 4 in here that I kind of liked. But,
we talking about ours
Are you
or?
talking,
no, I'm sorry, I thought you wanted, maybe I
I thought we were
misheard you.
starting with ours and.
Sorry, I thought you wanted to start with the ones that were not in ours. Apologies.
So the format of this is such that the top is what our charter
Yeah, how
currently
it
reads,
reads.
and then the chart below is the options in terms of wording.
These
And
were
some
what
slight
were used
changes.
by the other towns, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Mostly I was just
Just
kind of
to be
showing
clear.
that for the most part, everything that we had in ours is in someone else's. Yeah, the wording, I'm not.
Yeah,
I
other
don't know
than the
that we were
wordsmithing
unless
of it,
was-
it's consistent.
Right, unless there's something like major in there, but it was just to kind of show that for the most part, even though these are all town council, they're still pretty much the same as ours.
That's pretty good.
Because I think we already have a pretty strong town manager
Yep.
position, so.
Yeah, well, that's what I was noticing when I was reading through it. It took me a couple pages to see that that was the Norton at the top, and then the bottom were the options, but.
All right, do we want to take these one by one? Has everybody had a chance? Please tell me yes to review these.
I have not reviewed all of them. There's a lot of them here.
I thought, and except for where we need to take out Board of Selectmen. Again, most of, for the most part, were similar to even the town council.
I agree. I didn't
So
see the benefit of wordsmithing
Yeah.
some
So
of
I would
these,
just
other
say-
than if Lauren had a specific issue with one or more of them, the way they were presently worded.
I would just say take out Board of Selectmen. There's one that says something about the Board of Selectmen, and I take out the whole sentence.
Yeah, whatever T was, that very last one,
Well, that one we're taking out.
that has to come out.
But then also, is that L? I think that's L. Just as says, all contracts shall be subject to ratification and execution by the Board of Selectmen.
Sandy, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. I've got a
Sorry,
fan over
L.
my head.
I'm looking at L,
L, okay.
and just that last sentence of ours says, all contracts shall be subject to ratification and execution by the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
It doesn't seem like, and that's for personnel contracts. I don't know that we want town council to be approving personnel contracts, do we?
I would agree.
So
But
rather
Other
than.
than-
we were talking about saying contract over a
So
certain amount.
that's different, that's like procurement and services, or, but this is, L specifically is for negotiating personnel contracts.
Collective bargaining.
Oh, collective bargaining, they have no say over whatsoever, correct?
Right now, you mean?
Right.
Yeah. Board of Selectmen?
They
Okay.
they
I
vote
think
on
they
it.
still have to approve it.
Okay.
They probably just rubber stamp it, because what are they gonna say at that point?
Right.
But-
I don't see a point of putting it in there if it's literally just a rubber stamp.
So like I said, some of these things I feel like Board of Selectmen could just be changed to town council. Others, you might wanna just take it out. And L was one that I thought should be taken out.
Okay.
Taking out the whole thing, or just
No,
that
just
area that you highlighted?
just the last sentence, all contracts shall be
Yeah.
subject to ratification.
Yeah,
I agree.
I would agree with that out.
I apologize, I did miss this, but changing Board of Selectmen to Town Council sort of changes what branch is responsible for it, so is that what we want to do? Do we want
So that's
Town
what I was saying, we
Council?
need to go through, anytime it says Board of Selectmen,
Yeah.
either decide, do we want to take it out, or do we want to give it to town council? I mean, some of them, I think we want to change the wording to town council. The L was the one that I wanted to take out completely, but,
And T.
and T, we wanted to take the whole thing
The
out.
whole thing.
Yeah.
full stop. And I think Lauren was comfortable that the ones with regards to procurement will probably fine, even if the other charters don't necessarily address it.
For
It's either addressed in the bylaws or the charter.
the procurement?
Yeah.
That's in, are you talking about M?
No, I was talking about the ones further down. Maybe it is. I. There was I, there was.
But they all have
K.
something like that.
Yeah, not all of them, some of them did, like the North Attleboro one did, not all of them did.
But for I, they all, you can see the chart, they all have it somewhere.
So I'm confused. You're asking which ones we want to remove from the town manager's current list of duties.
Correct.
And so you want to remove L, even though you're saying that.
No, I want to just take that last sentence
the
out.
highlighted sentence.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, sorry, no.
So, just my question for Elle, just by taking that sentence out, obviously, there's still things in there about tenants of members of board of selectmen and all that other stuff. So basically, that whole bottom paragraph could be removed because it mentions the board of selectmen multiple times.
Well, at that point, we need to decide whether we want town council to fill that role, or if that just falls directly to town manager, and we take the,
My question, that's fine, my question would be is if you're removing that, all contracts will be subject to ratification execution by, if you change that to, if you remove that at all, then the rest of it above it, you're basically having them listen to something that
It's not necessary.
it's not necessary at all. Because why are they listening to it when they have no say in it? So if you're gonna remove that bottom part, which I agree with, to me, just remove it all together.
Yep.
What I would suggest you add is, if we can, is, well, he doesn't really have to, because the town manager says right here, he may utilize other professional services, including legal counsel. Like, for instance, like Bridgewater was saying, Bridgewater can have their town accountant, or whatever they call it, finance director, negotiate the contracts with them, because they're the ones that know the budget. So they know what's available for collective bargaining.
Right, and there's a subcommittee of the council that would be FENCom. So would you have,
Well, if your town manager is recommending a budget for that year, and this contract's being signed that July 1st, they know what is available for the budget. So then it's their job not to go and give town employees too much of a contract where it's gonna bounce the budget. So it's their job to put forth something that's, with the help of whatever they need, whether it be town council, legal counsel, or whether it be, the finance director, or whatever you may say, for the money wise of it. But if we're removing the board of selectmen, there's no really point for them to bring each contract to town council. They're gonna listen to it and they say, well, what do you want us to do with it? Nothing, we'll just let you know.
but is the budget approved by the time they're negotiating it?
It depends, but what I'm saying is he may not sign a collective bargaining agreement. He doesn't have to agree to it. If they're asking for ridiculous demands and it doesn't fit within the budget, he doesn't have to sign that thing, it can continue on.
I think most of the language, and I think it's probably not necessarily required, because I think it's something that has to happen anyway, but a lot of them say, insofar as they require appropriations, such contracts shall be subject to the approval of town council. So they have to approve the appropriations for it, which is sort of a given, but if we wanted to have it in there, I don't think it hurts. But I think that's kind of what you're saying, right, is that he's negotiating within what you've already appropriated. Or
Right, that's what I was asking, did they approve the appropriations?
They approved it.
That
Or
would-
what, yeah.
And the town council approved.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we
there's
have
only,
to vote on, at town meeting, we have to vote on a
Right.
budget before they can hire a new person.
Right.
And that's the same kind of thing, right? Town council would have to vote to increase some budget before they can hire somebody new.
before the town manager can enter into negotiations.
or for instance, if a collective bargaining unit of the town enters into a new collective bargaining agreement for 3 years, say, the contract for 3 years, let's say whatever union, that money is appropriated in the budget. Town meeting would then vote on the money being spent. It's not like you get this, like, here's the contract, you know what I mean? That's just, that's added to the budget, it's all voted on together, and that's what approves through it, you know what I mean? But the town manager is responsible for going to each collective bargaining agreement, bargaining unit, negotiating a contract that falls within the parameters that he knows he's got to work with money-wise. He's not, you just can't come in, oh yeah, take whatever you want, you know what I mean? And then, at this point, the way we write it is, he brings it back to the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen.
So I think that's the issue, is that these collective bargaining agreements across the board are all multi-year contracts before the budgets are known and laid out, and we don't have a good planning mechanism, I think, to know, like, we can agree to 5% each year over year. We don't know that in advance, and we're actually stuck with 3 the last, I don't know how many years that I can think of, right? But yeah.
2. But on the other side of that
Yeah.
is, if you don't, I get what you're saying, but it's also on the other side of it, if you do agree to a 3-year plan, you can actually plan and know what increases are gonna happen each. Okay, so if you get a 1% raise, 1% raise, you know the second year what it's gonna cost you in the personnel that you have. You know what that budget's gonna be for wages and benefits.
And
someone
Denise, the other
retires.
piece of that is that
Yeah.
if you agree to, let's say, a 10% raise, right, and then you don't get that money appropriated, you have to lay some people off.
Exactly.
So if you had, let's say, 20 people in a group that you're bargaining with, and you negotiate, crazy raises, then when you get to that 3rd year, you're gonna have to say, sorry, someone's gonna have to let go.
Gotcha.
So that's the consequence, that's why
And I-
a town manager wouldn't just go crazy in these raises. That's, teachers, they saw your budget's cut, it's not, we're gonna cut your raises are what they are, we're gonna cut a teacher.
Right, right.
And I think by saying, like some of these other towns have said, that all of these contracts are subject to the approval of town council, then I think, as Lauren was saying last week, that he's probably going to be, the town manager is probably going to be consulting with town council too, sort of in talking about budget and future budget, because they need to.
Approve it at some point.
Yeah.
No, I thought we were taking that out.
No, taking out that, not that they have to approve the contract, but that they have to appropriate. the money.
Appropriate, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
So when they go before with the budget, they don't want to have a million questions, right? Don't have good answers to them.
So figuring if you've got, if he, he knows that they're gonna have to appropriate it, so he's not gonna do it without consulting with them.
Yeah, and
Like,
it's the same thing too, if he goes and gives the whatever collective bargaining agreement way too much money, in that 3rd year, you're laying off, there's gonna be questions for the town manager. You didn't see
Right,
this?
that's why I don't think he's gonna do it in the,
Absolutely
or
not.
she's gonna do it in the vacuum.
Yeah,
Like,
they have to, they know what they can do and what they can't do. I mean, there's always a fine line
And they
of,
also have to keep in mind what competitive,
Yeah.
what other people are getting paid in those positions.
Yeah.
You can't just say, we're not gonna, increase your pay the next 5 years.
Right.
They're gonna go someplace else.
And I think we're entrusting, in the charter that we're envisioning, we're trusting the town manager to know all that, to be responsible for the hiring and firing and to know all that, so.
That's his job.
I do like the language that's within North Attleboro, basically stating insofar as it requires an appropriation contract is subject to the approval of town council. I think that's reasonable.
Well, every contract's gonna require appropriation, right, like,
Yes.
so I don't know that we want town council to be approving.
I think what this does is, for a layperson reading it, it gives you assurances that the town manager can't go nuts.
Well, I think, like East Long Meadow's wording is a little bit more what you're saying. Appropriations required by such contract shall be subject to the vote of town council. So they're not approving the contract,
Right.
just the appropriations.
exactly.
Yep.
And even Amherst is the same way. I mean, be responsible for the negotiation and enforcement of all contracts and collective bargaining agreements with town officers and employees, including labor unions placed under the town manager's control by the charter over wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment. Town manager may employ special counsel to assist in the performance of these duties Insofar as such contracts or collective bargaining agreements require funding, such contracts or agreements shall be subject to appropriation by town council. That's very similar to East Long Meadows, where it's,
They're all essentially saying the
Yeah,
same
but I
thing.
think North Attleboro is saying they have to approve every contract.
yeah,
Right, I don't think we want to do that.
I think that gets into politics of it.
Well, I'm reading that as insofar as they require appropriation, meaning that it wasn't already approved in the budget, that needs an approval by town council. It's not every single contract. I was reading that as not every contract, just ones where maybe it exceeds the current appropriation approved.
But I think every
And I don't think
time,
that's what that's saying. I think it's saying all contracts
Yeah.
that are subject to
I think every
appropriation.
I think
contract's
it's
gonna
saying
have
what
appropriation.
what our charter says now. But with the
Exactly.
language that we're talking about taking out, I think North Attleboro has in their charter.
And I think like the East Long Meadow one or the Amherst one gives the ability to the town council to say, okay, why are we appropriating this much money? Well, we're appropriating this much money because some of this is a contract. Well, is this a normal thing? Yes, this is why laid out in 3 years. It gives them an idea on what they're actually voting on for appropriation. If they don't like the appropriation, they can have a discussion with the town manager on what's going on before they vote on it.
So back to your point, Kevin, I agree that whole bottom paragraph should go.
About the members of Board of Selectmen may attend.
Yeah, I mean, do we
Well,
need town council members to attend a
I just thought of
negotiation?
one in the event that they have I think the ones where they may have the authority to disapprove one of the department heads, maybe they should be allowed in those.
But that's the
The
hiring, not the
selectment of
contract.
the person, the selection of the person, I think, is the disapproval. The contract itself, I think we need to leave to the town manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is only the contract and the collective bargaining, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, it doesn't really entail the,
Right.
I don't think we want a town council going to
Okay.
discussions.
I'm in agreement then. So we are going to strike the second paragraph beginning with members of the Board of Selectmen. And we are going to add language similar to either East Long Meadow or Amherst. Does anybody have is there a preference?
Well, I think we show it to Lauren and let her.
Yeah, I don't think we should, but aside from making the decisions about
Yeah.
what, you know, if there are powers that town council needs, I think we should let Lauren do the wordsmithing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she can put best practices in and we can approve it afterwards.
Okay. I'm not gonna take motions or votes on each of these individual pieces. We can do it collectively and or
We should put that
do
on
it at the
the-
point when we have a draft to review. Okay, so moving on from L, do we want to go through the ones that specifically reference Board of Selectmen and determine what, if anything, needs to, well, something obviously needs to change, but how it's changed?
I'd say like the very first can just change from board of selectmen to town council.
Sorry, I can't hear
On
you.
the first page,
Yep.
it says
A?
board of select, no, before A.
Yeah.
Oh, the preamble?
Yeah.
Got it. I just buzzed right past the preamble.
I would agree, Sandy, just change it to town council.
Directly responsible, yep.
So in M, right, this is the more general procurement. We talked about a threshold limit, no? I don't see that in here, unless I'm missing.
Can we?
It's not, but do we want to jump ahead?
Yeah, can we go through them all?
Let's go through
Yeah.
and then whatever
Oh,
it
we
is.
were on L, so I assume we were
Well,
on M.
No, we jumped back to the
We've jumped
preamble.
back.
and- We got back to the beginning.
Okay.
All right. So in the preamble, directly responsible, where is it? Town manager, chief admin officer, directly responsible to the town council. And that is it.
Yeah.
Okay. Within A, we have reference to vote by the board of supervisors.
So town meeting vote would be town council vote.
Yeah, and then we take out selectmen,
By Board of
because you
Selectmen,
can't
right.
say it twice.
You're right.
Okay.
Copy and D.
Am I missing a page, or did you not print them all? We went from AM on to D?
Yep. Still has those.
Yes, A and D.
Oh, I can see why, because C is the big giant list, so that's ridiculous. And then B has to do with civil service, so I can see why that was left. Although there is a reference to the board of selectmen in there.
So, back to C though, do we want to have certain ones identified in the charter as being, I guess, of the most importance? I think this list is too long.
Yes.
And I think Lauren's recommendation was to think about, are there some that we want to have included in here?
Yeah,
That
she
should be
was
in the
gonna-
charter and harder to change.
She was gonna give us a recommendation of
Yes.
which ones should be in there.
Okay,
And she had listed, there were 5 or 6, so,
okay.
my.
Well, isn't this the question we just answered at the beginning of the meeting?
The 5 or 6 that we're getting
Right.
approval by the council.
Yeah. So didn't we, I think we answered this question.
Sorry.
Right?
I'm not following.
So the list in C
Yeah,
is what we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, the department heads, that were gonna be subject to town council refutal.
yes,
So those would be the same list that we include under C,
Yeah.
just,
correct,
okay.
yes.
Oh, I think that's why I took out B too, because that was
Yeah.
appointing stuff. So I took out appointing authority. I had that in a separate document
Okay,
that I shared with you.
all right,
So that's what we just did.
Yeah,
Right.
that's why I took out B and C.
okay. D. I don't think D needs any work, unless anybody saw any issue with it.
No, that's good.
So, good question though. I guess to be entrusted with the administration, we could still hire an HR manager to perform those responsibilities, right?
Yeah,
As part of being entrusted with it.
yeah.
Right. The town
Within the
manager's
general
responsible.
organization, I think it was Hanover or Amherst, within their charter, they actually had put an org chart of the town departments. I don't know if we want to discuss, that's a discussion for a further day. Sorry.
So just
I opened a can of worms I didn't want to get into.
Yeah, just kind of a question for my own purposes, because we know today we don't have an HR manager, right? We don't know
Yeah.
if when we'll get one or whatever. But if someone that the town manager hires has a personnel issue with the town manager, who do they go to?
I think that is determined by the policies and procedures set by the town manager.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right now, the town manager is HR.
Right, but if I have a problem with him, I can't go in.
Do you guys remember someone saying that there was like a team of people, and I thought Lucia was part of it?
And I thought the treasurer was too.
Oh, see, it's not
Yeah.
just me.
Yeah.
Do you know
That's what I
raised
thought.
it?
What?
Do you remember who raised it? Or who mentioned
I
it?
thought we talked about it but when both the treasurer and Lucia, were they here on the same day? I can't remember,
So
but
I think the
thought both
treasurer's,
of them
I think the
said it.
treasurer's role is related to specifically
More.
benefits, right? Because they have
Maybe.
to.
She does a little
Yeah.
HR, but you're right.
Yeah.
They didn't go to school. They
But
didn't get trained.
I remember that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a process that if you have a complaint, so they must have it written somewhere.
Okay.
It's not in our chart.
Which you really
Which is
wouldn't
fine.
expect it
Yeah,
to
we
be.
wouldn't want
Yeah.
to know the charter.
I was just curious.
Okay, so moving on, we're okay with D.
Can I just ask for B though, we're taking out all the Board of Selectmen references, right? Because they're not.
Yes.
They're not
Right.
approving anything that's at the employee level.
Other than the accountant and a potential.
And that's part,
town
that's,
clerk,
yeah.
Okay. Okay, D, we're good. E is in Edward, to fix compensation of all officers, employees, accountable to the town manager, the limits station appropriation. I found that perfect, succinct. Anybody have any issue with it?
No?
F, to attend all regular and special meetings
Okay.
of the, change that to town council. Unless unavailable, shall have no voice, have a voice but no vote. I'm fine with the way that's written. Anybody have any issues?
Nope.
Okay. G, short, full and complete record of the financial and administrative activities of the town are kept and to render as often as may be required by the Board of Selectmen. But not less than quarterly, a full report on town administrative operations during the period reported on, which report shall make available to the public. So in this instance, I would say may be required by town council.
Yes.
Okay.
So are they doing it quarterly now?
That's a great question.
'Cause right now it says not less than quarterly.
Yeah,
So let's make sure that we're wording it so we're compliant.
well,
I would say it's biannually now, right?
we can't enforce, well,
We could also
What is
just leave it
reasonable?
as required by,
Why don't we just take the quarterly or the time thing on it and just put it as like some of these other, towns have, is to ensure the complete and full records of the financial administrative activity of the town are maintained and to render reports to the town council as may be required. Done. Yeah, and then it's
Well, I think you, like East Long, whatever that's supposed to be,
East
Long
Long
Meadow.
Meadow.
has at least once a year. I think you need to require it, I would like to see it required at least once a year, right?
I also like that it has to be available to the public.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
available
Made
to the
available to the
public.
public, yeah, I
That's not a bad
agree.
idea. Yeah, and once a year, and then if for some reason they need it, and there's a request of,
Right.
you know what I mean, and then the public can, East Long Meadow is part of these.
So just change quarterly to annually? Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, and then make sure that it's available to the public. Do you have that already in here?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
actually, ours has it, nobody else's.
East
No,
Long
there's
Actually,
another
East
one.
Long Meadow does have it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So changing that, mass may be required by town council, but not less than annually. That's the only amendment to G. H, to keep the Board of Selectmen, change that to town council. Fully advised as to the needs of the town, shall recommend to the town council and to the other elected town offices and agencies for adoption such measures requiring action by them or by, so we're gonna strike, 'cause we're already getting, agencies for adoption such measures requiring action by them or by the town meeting. I hate the way this is worded.
It is very wordy.
Yeah, town council.
It's complicated.
Well, we can
It's
take
a
any,
lot.
I mean,
and,
honestly,
and
any of the
again,
others.
we can let Lauren
Yeah.
fix
Yeah.
it.
Any of the other cities
She didn't
or
write all
towns,
current ones, right?
like East Long Meadows, even North Attleboro's is
What does that mean?
less.
I'm not even sure what that's getting
The
at.
Norton one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, East Long Meadows
Oh, I don't
shall
know.
keep the town council fully advised as to the needs of the town and shall recommend to the town council for adoption of such measures requiring action by them as he or she may deem necessary. I mean, it's,
Yeah, it's not a
It's-
well, yeah.
yeah.
So
You-
I
She
think
can clean it up.
Palmer's is a little bit, it's kind of similar, but written better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let,
Yeah.
let her wordsmith it. She knows that we need to change the Board of Selectmen and town meeting things in there anyway. Let her
Okay.
pick the best,
Yeah.
newest wording they use now.
All right, so we don't like that. I. Full jurisdiction over the rental use of all town facilities and property except on property of the school committee or the board of library directors or the conservation commission.
Yeah, they have their
I
own
don't
land.
remember that being there. What's that?
They have their own land,
Right, yeah.
and Jen's responsible for that, not.
Okay. It's funny, when I'm reading it, I'm thinking buildings, not land.
It's mostly land, I don't think,
Yeah.
except for now, the new one, but most of it's just land.
Town manager is responsible for the maintenance or repair of all town buildings and facilities placed under the town manager's control by this charter, by bylaw, or by a vote of the town council or otherwise, but I don't know what the hell otherwise would be. It's not in the, well, I guess it changed by mass general law, maybe? But, okay. Any issues with that?
I guess I had a quick question. So the
Yeah.
Conservation Commission is elected
Yep, no, appointed,
by,
right now, Board of
by the
Selectmen.
Selectmen.
My question would be on this one,
Board of Selectmen, right?
my question on I would be on that Conservation Commission, like, is there a list of what that actual land is that she has control of?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
GIS map.
Huge list.
Because if,
What's that?
There's a huge list of.
Yes.
I know it's been brought up by other people, like, if we're paying taxes and we've paid towards grants that some of these lands have been purchased through the last several years, I don't believe that one person should be saying, you can't use this land if we don't want you to, if the taxpayers are paying for it. I know it's been brought up before, like, we're buying this land, we have no real way to maintain it, they're throwing gates up and that's the end of it, and then what?
You can walk on it.
Well, I mean,
The
conservation-
conservation is gonna be under the town manager, so the town manager is gonna be setting the policy for all of this, all of the
And you
the
also
use
have
of
to
the
take
property.
into account.
And conservation, I'll tell you,
Okay.
conservation, some of their attitude is they want land for the sake of having land, right? It's just open space, it's not buildable.
I just- like I
It's-
said,
They
I've
don't,
heard-
and not everything has to be something that has to be passive recreation. Some of it's just to keep open space and not to have, you know,
I
more
just,
building.
my question on this would be is if taxpayer money is being used to purchase some of this land, which has been in the past, we've appropriated money at town meetings and whatnot to either make up the other side of a grant or whatnot, and then for the taxpayer wanting to use it or have access to it, and there's no actual plan of when it's being used, I don't think that's really fair to the taxpayer that where just the town manager doesn't have a say and say, whoa, this is town purchased land, we're gonna have a plan on how to use it. I'm not saying just a free-for-all and everyone can do whatever they want, but, I mean, I just don't see how money's being used for that, and then we're not having at least the ability to, you know, look at it. I mean, we got a lot of land, and I get it, land for land, but, you know,
And they're happy, like, that's kind of what, you know, their goal isn't necessarily to
well, I know what the
build a
goal
bunch
is.
of parks, their goal is to keep land open.
And I think
Right.
that's more a policy question than a charter question. Like, it's town land, and
Yeah.
ultimately, the town manager is responsible for all of these commissions and
And in some
staff.
cases, it is deeded to the town, it is granted to the town, you know, either
That's what I mean,
they're paying $1 for it, or it's given outright as a gift,
I would
with
just-
stipulations.
I would like to have curiosity on what land is gifted directly to the conservation and land preservation, and what land was over the years purchased with taxpayer. Because I think those two totally different things. Land being given specifically for that purpose of land preservation for, to have open space land is one thing, but to then use taxpayer-funded money to purchase land, like for instance, the
Edith Reed.
Edith Reed, that's a different thing. 'Cause we've
Right.
appropriated money because we got a good deal on the land with the, you know, grant she got, but what's the plan with it? Because there is taxpayer money being used there.
It's gonna be a campground.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a general question, right? That's a, and if you have, for conservation, go to, you know, go to a conservation commission meeting and raise it with the commission. This is ultimately.
You go to the GIS map,
I know,
Well, yeah, but it's not gonna answer his question, because the majority of
what
that town
limitations on
land,
it?
well, the majority of the town land is gifted. There's only a few, I think, we've actually paid for, right, that we've paid for.
it should be within the master plan.
Are there,
She, I mean,
there
she
is-
has that huge, I showed the huge spreadsheet for that, you see that she has a huge spreadsheet, I can share it with you, I don't know, I can't remember if it has that or not on it, but.
I'm just saying, like, I know this has been brought up, the reason I bring it up is because I know this has been brought up multiple times at town meetings
Right.
before. Like, why is $50,000 every year being appropriated to take care of the kayak place?
I would get a group of your friends, don't tell my husband I said this, and go to conservation.
I'm just saying, like, that-
And go to their
that's-
meeting and then ask them, because that's, you know, it's a fair question.
Yeah, these things have been brought up on surveys and brought up in town meetings. You know, it's fine that we just keep doing it, but we're appropriating money for these places. Taxpayer money. What's the plan? And again, if we don't ask it now, it's just gonna continue to be status quo, and we're just gonna what? Continue to appropriate money for these places that we don't have a plan for? I mean, it's great that we accumulate, that we got either three. It's great. I understand, there's a lot of wetlands out there, there's a lot of conservation, but it's still taxpayer money.
Doesn't open space help us with,
40B.
yeah,
So are you
But
saying you
either way-
don't want to see that underneath there? You'd like to see that
No, it's not that I
out?
wanna see it on there, I just wanna be sure that we're allowing, if it's taxpayer money, I think there needs to be a plan on what the actual access to it is. So the town manager, I think, should be able to have more control and stuff like that. If it's gifted directly to the Land Preservation Society or directly given as a gift to conservation, that's a different story.
But, I mean, he's conservation agent's boss. Right, so ultimately you still could go to him and say, what's going on with this property?
Well,
And,
83, we had a vote on that anyway. So just don't take taxpayers, money taxpayers voted on.
I
So
know, I'm
it's-
just,
So,
I just
you
say,
know.
all my point was that it gets brought up every single meeting, or every single town meeting when we decide appropriate budgets for different things. Like kayaking, I know it's been brought up multiple times. Like, my question would be, is if there's something in here that we need to look at, I think this is the time to look at it.
so
And
Blake,
that something is whether or not to keep that as an exemption?
I'm not even saying that's to keep an exemption or not, I'm gonna do my own
I'm not sure
research on
that's
it.
even within our control.
Yeah.
The exemption.
I just know that
what do you mean?
there's,
Of course,
well, for instance, there's certain
what's
things
within
that,
the charter? Is that really, and we could take this out here, but I don't think you want to do that, right? So, other than that, I don't know what else we
I
could
guess
put
I'm
in
a
the
little
charter.
confused. I guess I'm confused why it is.
it's the only one that I'm
Well-
seeing, for example. is
I
that
get
have
the
it.
school committee, obviously.
But-
I get the public board.
no other town.
Maybe there's a reason legally or something, but I'm not confused why there's an exception. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. just-
I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but it is unusual. It's the only one I'm seeing in these examples that
Yeah.
has that.
Out of seven,
But I will also say, no one's raised it as an issue in all of our interviews that we did.
Yeah.
Either.
Well,
My
it's
cu-
not as if conservation is going to raise it.
Right.
my curiosity is that we specifically have it in there about the Conservation Commission.
Mhm.
But 7 towns that are listed under this do not mention one bit of conservation. Are you telling me none of these towns have conservation land? That's all I'm asking. Is why do we have that specifically in there? Is there a reason for it? I
Does
don't
the town
know.
manager maybe not want to deal with it?
Town council, something like that.
Library and school has to be an exception because state
Right,
law.
100%.
requirement,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Totally agree. I just,
Do
again,
you want to hold
if-
that as a question for Lauren? Is she going to be here next time?
Lauren, I believe.
Is that a
And ask
question
if
for
she-
them, or is that a question more for Mike to say, is there a reason why? Is
Yeah,
this
it could-
something
it
that
could-
maybe as a town
could be
manager he
either
doesn't
one.
want to? And she,
Yeah.
I think she also gets, I mean, I don't know how this compares to other towns, but she gets a lot of land, right? She gets them for the grants and gets them donated and goes after them, and so maybe everybody's on their end. I know the public, is a different thing, but maybe everybody, town manager, conservation agent, maybe they're all happy with that arrangement.
Again, I'm not against the land thing, I'm just more concerned of why does 7 towns not have anything listed, and then we make it a specific point.
The only
Outline
reason I
it.
say Lauren is because she sees more than what we have listed here, and so
Right.
she might just know from experience why that it would be a good idea or not.
And interestingly, it was not raised as an issue by Mike Eunice.
Right.
And she would know if there
And
was
he
some
was-
legal issue there.
Yeah, he was vocal about things that he would like to see changed,
Yeah.
so.
Again, just an example of like how I see something like that would be, let's just say, for instance, the town manager had an idea for the town for whatever use to use E3 at one point. Does this prevent him from doing that without going to the Charter Commission and getting approval? That's what I'm
Well,
asking.
I think she knows, this would be my devil's advocate, that she knows when she got the grant, what is allowed, what uses are allowed, right? And so There's a lot of wetlands, so those are those issues.
Mhm.
So I think even if it wasn't there, he'd probably have to go to her anyway.
So-
Right, because she knows what was in the grant, she knows what the grant money was for. There's certain restrictions on what you can use the land for.
But the problem is, I think, I don't think we can think of this as, this is Mike Units and Jen Carlino, because
Yeah, that's what I'm
it's
saying.
not going to be them forever,
Right.
right? So, best case scenario, worst case scenario, if everyone's getting along hunky-dory fine, probably not an issue. Let's imagine if there's a town manager and conservation agent that are butting heads and don't get along well at all, what would the result be?
I guess I would say if the conservation agent got the land, either the grant for the land or the donation for the land,
So maybe you
which
differentiate.
then that's within their control because, and also, again, a lot of these are a huge amount of wetlands and, other things, other issues that would come under his or her.
Right, but they
purview
have
anyway.
control over that via the approval process anyway, right? If somebody wanted to do something with the land, conservation would still have a say in what can be done with that land because of her role as conservation agent.
Well, and also because with the grant limits it too, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Limits it to the use of the land.
I would just think that even if it was, the land was given on a grant or gotten on a grant or donated, and it's under the control of the town, we're responsible for it. So if something happens to the land, it's on the town. It's not on the Conservation Commission. It's gonna fall under the town's thing. My concern with this article, the way it's written is, and again, I don't know this, is it more of a thing that the town is working in conjunction with the Conservation Commission to use the land, for instance, clarification on what can be used there, wetlands, all that other stuff? Or is it that they can basically deny the town manager use of the land because they fall into this thing? That's where my question falls. Because if the town manager, for instance, or the town itself comes up with an idea on have a one-time use for a specific piece of land that the town has and the town maintains, and it falls under all the ramifications of the wetlands, in my opinion, there shouldn't be a commission or anything else that says, no, you're not using it. It's town land, whether you got it from a grant or not, if it falls under the rules. My question on that article is it something that is being denied specifically by the town if they want to, or is it whenever they feel? I think that's and again, I understand the school, I understand the library, it's a different thing than state law. Why do 7 other towns not have it?
Like I said, I think that Mike would be a good person to ask if there's a reason for that, specifically in this town. If that was something that's always been in there, or if that's something,
Again, I don't know the answer. I'm just-
And thinking about when you go to replace Jen Carlino someday, she retires or whatever, you need to find a new conservation agent. Think about posting that job, and is it typical for conservation agents to not only have to approve property uses based on conservation rules and regulations, but also they have to go take care of the bathrooms and maintain them on the property that's owned by a conservation agent, they have to mow the lawns, they have to plow the driveway, like, that's not typically part of what they would have under their purview, right?
right, and I think until we had this new property, the other properties never had buildings or any of those sort of issues, so.
See, I think that's a good point, though, because I guess I would want the town to be responsible in that case, like if they want to get free with the buildings and all of this. I would rather have the town manager be to say, Keith, you gotta go down there and cut the lawn.
Rather than have to contract or something.
Right, because.
But that's my question, is if that's happening, then why is,
Right, why are we creating that?
why are we?
It should be looked at as a big picture, I guess.
Exactly. To me, it shouldn't be secluded of, we have this little piece over here, and this is its own little line. I think it should
Jen's
be,
like,
what's the
and I'm
best
not
for the
saying
town?
I'm not saying Jen would do it, but you wouldn't want to have Jen saying, no, I have my own guy who cuts it, whatever. I'm not saying she does that, but like, why are we creating that? That's what I don't.
Well, she doesn't want any lawn cut anywhere, so.
Right. I was gonna say cut trees, but that's
She
like.
wants to return to nature.
And again, I think that would be a question for Mike, because I think that when you get a grant for a specific piece of land, you may not want to take on the responsibility. You may not want to have highway have to then take another piece of property, right? Yeah, you can get this property, but it's yours to take care of. So maybe there's the flip side to that we're not
I
seeing.
think we can ask Mike, but again, it's not gonna always be Mike either, right? So where does it make sense for those roles to be? I think we should just think about that. We don't have to decide today, but I think we should think
Well,
about
I'm
what
gonna
makes
look into
sense.
this myself.
Is it
because
Mike or is it
right
Lauren
now,
Goldberg that we want
I'm
to
liable
ask?
for, when trees fall and the conservation land, they can make me go cut them up. And this might mean the conservation's in charge of it, the town ain't liable for that land. It could be something, some kind of language in there that we don't know about. They take all the wetlands, what's on wetlands, trees, and what do? They fall. And there could be some kind of language in there, if the conservation owns that land, we aren't liable for the trees that fall in someone else's yard or property.
It's a town function. The conservation agent is a town role, so
Right.
he's still responsible.
But I don't know I don't know how it's worded in the law for conservation. They might have a special, something in there written that,
I'd be surprised, but it's worth checking, for sure, yeah.
Again, I will ask Mike, I understand the whole thing, obviously I'm talking about more position than it is person. Nobody's gonna be here forever, so I'll ask Mike as a pure town manager thing, why this is in our thing. But I think the other thing is, I would like to ask Lauren next time we're here to get clarification on why we're not seeing this anywhere else, but we're seeing it here. And I get it, we are different, we have a lot of open space, so maybe that's some of the reason why there was so much of it, and they had to detail it that way. I just would like clarification on why this keeps coming up every time we get a new grant or land is, subjected to money. Nothing's really changing. We're throwing $50,000 at a piece of property that nothing's changed for the taxpayers. And I know we keep approving it, but we approve a lot of things at town meeting, which we probably should look at.
Okay, so you have volunteered to reach out to
Yep.
Mike. We'll bring an answer for next week when Lauren will be here. Excellent. Okay, let's move on.
Do you want to send the question to Lauren ahead of time, just so she has time to?
Yes,
Well,
please, and
okay.
thank you. Wait, am I doing that or are you
I
raising
will,
it?
because I have to.
You
update
gotta
her
call her
anyway.
anyways. Okay, excellent, thank you. J. To prepare and present in the manner provided in Article 6, which we have not yet gotten to. An annual operating budget for the town and proposed capital outlay for 5 fiscal years ensuing. My suggestion is to leave that subject to further review within Article 6 when we get to it. Sure. Okay. I also foresee that happening quite a bit, Lauren making tweaks that we've actually got to go back and readjust a few things here and there.
Yep.
K, assure that a full and complete inventory of all property of the town, both real and personal, is kept, including all property under the jurisdiction of the school committee. We have no issue, anybody?
Nope, fine.
L, we have already discussed. Was there anything in that first paragraph we needed to tweak? No, we're good.
Yeah, I just haven't noticed in this here, the K, Amherst doesn't have anything.
What's that?
In the K,
Yeah,
I just haven't noticed, Amherst, I don't think has anything, right?
doesn't address it. Yeah, this was one of the ones that I had asked, this was in the vein that I had asked last week. There's a lot in here that we have that others don't, that being one of them.
Yeah, it just seems like that's,
Okay.
probably just a list of county systems.
Yeah. L, we talked about, and there's a Mary, responsible for purchasing supplies, materials, equipment for all departments and activities, not including food for school, school and library books and other instructional materials, supplies and equipment, unless otherwise specified or requested by the school or the library as appropriate. Town manager shall examine or cause to be examined quantity, quality, condition of supplies, material, equipment delivered to or received by any agency except schools and libraries. Town manager shall be responsible for the disposal of all supplies and equipment which have been declared surplus by any town agency. A lot of words.
So does that include services though, too? It's not listing services, is that covered somewhere else?
This seems to apply specifically to physical.
tangible items,
Yeah,
yeah.
physical goods.
So you found that in the bylaws though, right?
Procurement.
The
Yeah.
under.
did actually remember to print it before I left. So procurement in the bylaws is procurement of goods and services by the city shall be in conformity with the provisions of Mass General Law, Administrative Code, or this code. So, Chief Procurement Officer.
East Long Meadow has services included, North Attleboro has services included. Amherst has services included.
And they also talk about, this is one of the things in Lawrence that we would want to consider a good execution of procurement contracts, who's responsible. Because we don't mention that either in here. I think that's what's in the bylaws, right?
Yes.
You mean just for signing them?
So, I
Negotiating
think,
them?
there were two things that she said, that she differentiated. There's signing warrants for payment of contracts, and there's approving contracts themselves. I don't know, execute contracts, don't know if that covers both, or if that just covers signing the contract. That's what I was confused about.
So
She differentiated as two separate things. We have it as two separate things in one in our charter, one in our bylaws.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
I didn't see anything about signing for payment in anybody's charter. Whereas right now, we have it in a different section, we have the board of selectmen has to sign all warrants. They can, right now we have 3 in there, but the state says you can have 1. So we have that in a different section of our charter.
So Mass General Law, just to further clarify, procurement and contracts refers to goods and services within Mass General Law. Within our specific bylaws, within town manager's authority, the authority to enter into, actually it's not even just the town manager, authority to enter into contracts and limitations unless otherwise provided by a vote of town meeting and to the extent consistent with the charter. The Board of Selectmen, town manager as the chief procurement officer, or any designee approved pursuant to Mass General Law 30B is authorized to enter into any contract for a term of up to or in excess of 3 years for the exercise of the town's corporate powers on such terms and conditions as are deemed appropriate. Notwithstanding the foregoing, no person shall contract for any purposes on any term other than conditions, under any conditions inconsistent with any applicable provision of general or special law.
So to go back to your question about the limit, I couldn't find that anywhere, anybody's charter.
Nobody has it.
Okay, that's fine. I mean,
So I thought it was interesting because
I only raised it because we talked about it last week with
Yes.
Lauren.
I know,
And she actually seemed to think that it made sense with a certain limit, but to think about what the limit should be, but.
I know.
And she was
couldn't
insistent.
But I
find
think
it.
she said that because we asked a question about it, and she said you could do this, could do it that way. But I don't think she was suggesting that we had to do it that way. That's how I interpreted it anyway.
She kind of said you want to think about what limit you want to put on that.
Right,
And-
surely we want
and-
to set it so low that they're
And she
reviewing
mentioned
it
that other towns have that in their charters, which I couldn't find anywhere.
I read 12 of them. There's not one in there.
It's really how involved do you want the town council to be in executing contracts? Like, if we're trying to give town manager the authority to do it, like,
He's already got to operate within appropriations.
And so right now, he has complete authority to sign
Yep.
contracts, correct? According to that bylaw.
Yep. Well, the Board of Selectmen have it too, but that bylaw is going to
But
need
it's
to be
an
amended.
or, right? It's not.
It is.
It's not with their
Or a
approval.
designee. It could even be somebody decides.
Right.
But it refers to the town manager as
But
chief
he doesn't
procurement
need
officer.
he doesn't need the Board of Selectmen's approval right now to do
No.
that. So I don't know why we would suddenly impose a restriction on
Right.
that and make his power even less than what it is right now.
It's fine.
Yeah, it was, I didn't have time to dig into all of the bylaws, but I found it very interesting that, trying to get guidance on what limit that should be from other charters, and there's zero reference to it in any charter.
Do any of these talk about at least reporting out?
So we do have to include language in there about who executes the contracts, because we don't have that right now. And then most people put it under, or most charters put it under M. Put it under that same language.
M is in Mary or N is in Nancy?
Mary. Yeah. And you can see
Oh, you
newest version I
highlighted.
highlighted.
Yep.
Executed contracts. So is that, again, does that include signing warrants for payment?
I would hope so.
So it's both? So it's
I
both
would hope-
signing
I would hope
and
so.
approving?
Yeah.
and-
I can't understand making it a two-step process.
Right.
And splitting
So what
the-
we have is a two-step process.
Yes, I don't understand why that is.
Yeah, I don't think.
And she mentioned it, yes, last time as a two separate things.
Yeah.
She said, who do you
Yeah.
want to execute your contract and who do you want to sign warrants?
Right now,
Which is for
selectmen-
payment.
selectmen's the
So
one.
what does the warrant accomplish? What is it?
It's all the
That's
bills
for
for the
payment.
week.
The invoice.
Just to check.
It's all our bills for the week. They add it all together.
Yeah.
They bring
It authorizes the accountant to
Right.
write the check.
Like, why wouldn't we make him do that?
Yeah.
So
would
I
think
guess
the
is,
town
does that
manager should
language
be
include, does that
responsible.
language include that? If we write execute contracts, does that include both? That's my question.
I would say so. Otherwise, I can't imagine someone on the town council signing a warrant really knows what they're signing for.
Well, right now, that's what's kind of crazy, is right now we have a town manager can enter into a contract, right, sign a contract by himself. And then the board of selectmen can say, oh, we want to pay that, right, if they wanted
Right,
to, right? Which is just
Yeah.
kind of absurd.
Yeah, I would say to Lauren, we want the town manager to be able to do everything right, whatever it is we need in here to make sure that he's got that
So
authority.
town manager should approve contracts and sign warrants.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering if they had it so that, Board of Selectmen approved the warrants before, just so that they were informed about what was being spent where.
Yeah.
Like, it's more of an informational purpose, not really.
Yeah, I seem to recall,
No, I think
and
they
maybe-
actually have
maybe
to
it's one of
vote
the
to
town
approve it,
managers.
though.
I agree, but
talking about how he gives a list to, to the board, like listing out
Yeah.
everything, like a summary or something, like, so like, they don't have to sign the warrants, but he can provide
like, it's part of
like
the
an
reporting.
accounting, I guess, yeah.
It's part of the reporting for each council being report out, like what.
Is he gonna say he spent $50 on stamps this week or paper?
Right,
or-
I would say as
mean-
long as he's keeping a record and it's available to the council, I don't think the council needs to be involved in that.
No.
And
And
I
so
mean,
it,
so
Like,
again,
they're
the-
meeting every 2 weeks or whatever, and they've got a lot to get through, like,
Yeah.
that stuff
Well,
is so,
And the other point is they're
Small.
involved in the appropriation, right? They're involved,
Right.
And so they're not going to, I mean, you're not gonna have this, $200,000 miscellaneous category that they don't know what it is. Everything that he or she's spending, they're gonna have voted to appropriate that money for.
Yeah.
So it should be somewhat clear, except for little things, like we don't care if the town manager buys this much paper versus this much something else, supplies and things like that.
Right.
But they don't, it's all bundled together.
Okay.
But I guess how does, Carrie's point, how does the town council know what he's spending? Because he only has to report once a year.
because they've appropriated the money.
Well,
So
they
instead
appropriated it.
of having the town council, which is not like, again, it's not the board of selectmen, so it's a different branch of government, like to have, say, the House of Representatives, like nitpick whatever, bills the governor is paying, for example, like, it just to raise it to a different level, like, you appropriate the money and then the executive spends within that limit that you've given them.
Yeah, and I think the accountant also checks it too, so like.
Yes.
Units would say, I'm gonna spend about $5,000 on whatever, some service. The accountant has to make sure that it's in the budget, that it fits the description of what he's doing, and all that kind of stuff.
He
right?
signs the purchase order too.
And then if they don't spend it, that, I think at some point it's turned back, right? And then they get a report that everything is turned back. So they'll know if something wasn't
Yeah.
spent, right?
You can't buy
I guess I was getting hung up on,
purchase.
we're only requiring a financial report once a year. That's what I was getting.
And as required by the town council. So the town council, if they want it more frequently, they can ask. So they can request it.
Oh, okay, maybe I missed that.
We're just requiring, in the charter, we're only requiring it once a year, but the town council has authority to request it whenever they want.
Okay, but that limited it.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything I said. Sorry, I missed that part.
Wake up.
All right.
Okay, so I'm just gonna let Lauren know that, to add to M, that the town manager can approve contracts and sign warrants,
Yes.
Sounds good.
however she wants to word that.
Should we talk about changing terminology?
What do you mean?
With regards to warrants?
Well, they don't use the word warrants in any of the other charters, which I
No.
think is weird.
Yeah.
But, so again, that's why I was gonna just, maybe execute contracts covers both.
Okay.
We don't have warrants in ours either, right?
We
No,
do
we do.
later on
Yeah.
in section 6.5.
Which is really
Oh.
confusing because every
Yes.
time I hear warrant, I think a
I
town meeting.
know, it's very,
It's
and then
like-
your contracts, and I was looking up your contract, and there's procurement contracts, and then there's employee contracts.
Yeah.
And so actually in the original version, if you printed my original version, you'd see that I put things in the wrong category because I just saw the word contract and.
And just for cleanup purposes, should we include services in the list of,
Our services.
Purchasing.
Hit somewhere
If it's not,
else?
if it's not, oh, yeah, right, did you say services was somewhere else?
No,
Or
it's
no?
not, it
Then-
just,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would say so. It needs to be supplies and services.
yeah. For now, it just says it's all tangible, we should include services in that too.
And again, if we just tell Lauren to wordsmith this to like the best management practices,
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
might clean up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I'm asking if services were addressed somewhere else, because none of the other charters reference services either, it's all tangible goods.
No, they have them.
No, I think it's,
Did I miss it?
North Attleboro has it, Amherst has it,
Services, there it
East
is.
Long, whatever it has
All right,
it.
fine. Pay me no mind. All right, Nenna's and Nancy. To see that all the provisions of the general law of this charter, town bylaw, and other votes of the town council, and striking votes of the board of selectmen entirely, which require enforcement by the town manager or offices subject to the direction and supervision of the town manager, are faithfully executed, performed, or otherwise carried out.
Other than tweaking the terms that are inconsistent,
Oh,
which is
good.
fine. Yeah.
Okay.
just clean it up with one of the other towns.
Write it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's worded 1,000 times better than all these other ones.
Make this pretty.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, to inquire at any time into the conduct of office or performance of duties of any officer or employee, department, board, commission, other town agency, whether appointed or elected. I kind of like Palmer's better. It's a little more succinct. Similar to Amherst.
But isn't like
Yeah.
policies is only if it's under the authority of the town manager? versus-
Right.
Yeah, which I think is more
But
appropriate,
is, yeah,
right?
Because ours right now says elected, so I mean, he, I guess, generally investigate a member of the planning board? Of the FinCom?
I'd say if they're, elected, are they under the town manager's authority?
East Long, whatever it says, under his or her control as well.
I think you have to have some type of, like catch-all. thing that-
Watertown has under his or her supervision. So most
Yeah,
of
so
them-
does Palmer, so under the
Yeah.
authority of the town manager, so
And Amherst does as well. So most of them
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So we want to change that to under the town manager's authority?
My only- my only-
Just so that he's not investigating the town council, like, or
But
somebody
my only question with
outside.
that be is, like, I get the whole town council thing, but let's say, right now, if a member of the board of selectmen did something wrong, shouldn't the town manager be able to provide information, if need be, to the board of selectmen?
Yes, but this is the town manager initiating it.
All right. I just,
This is giving them authority to investigate. I mean, this Freedom of Information Act, people can gather information and make their case whatever way they want. This is a little bit different, where it's making him kind of like the investigative authority over these things that it makes sense for people who report to him, but I don't know that it makes sense for other roles that don't.
Yeah, yes,
'Cause-
but you know, like, if he's working closely with town council and he just sees something that doesn't make sense to him, I guess they can.
Right,
see
well,
why.
and the town
Yeah.
council is appointing an accountant, for example, so, and the reason is because the accountant is gonna have oversight over how the money's being spent, right? So you don't want the town manager to be investigating his own oversight person, that's the town council's job.
Correct.
Think about if it's a contentious relationship, right, and you wanna throw a stick in the scope there.
I'm just curious, because some, like, for instance, note that, to investigate or inquire into the affairs of any town department, agency, or office.
And that, this one right here, the one that we're discussing, is one of the powers and duties on the other sheet, not listed, to do what you just said, right? To act as an advocate and investigate complaints or violations in any town office. So I don't know if that's something we wanted to include too, and just to add to that, because that's one of the powers over here that's not listed.
My only question would be is if, like, for instance, if the town manager is made aware that somebody from planning board has done something illegal, violated ethics, whatever, and he's the only one that the person went to say this is what happened, where does that fall into this? Does he have to immediately pass it on to town council and let them be made aware of the infraction, or does he then say, okay, what's the violation of the ethics complaint? Okay, he or she did violate the ethics complaint, do they now bring that information to town council and say, what
I
do you do
think
here?
planning is under the town manager though.
Well, okay,
the way
then
we're
let's use
talking
an
about
example
it.
that's not under,
They
let's,
all are.
Yeah, so everything is under town
Almost
manager,
everything.
except the town council and the accountant.
okay, so what if the accountant?
That's it. But, so that would be town council's responsibility, because you can't have him going after the.
Well, except for
people
school
who
and
are-
library too, though.
Right, yeah.
My question is, what if the town manager, what if a person goes to the town manager with a problem of the town accountant, doesn't go to town council?
Then
goes
they have to go to
direct-
town council.
That's what I'm saying, but I'm just saying, does that,
As a citizen, you can file an ethics complaint if you want to. Like, it doesn't have to go to town manager if you know something.
I totally understand, but if I choose as a citizen to file the complaint directly with the town manager and not go through town council, does that provision now allow the town manager to bring that up because he's not the investigating officer, or does he have to say to the person, you gotta bring it to town council? I don't have anything to do with this.
The accountant is not under the authority of the town manager. The town manager should direct them to the town council.
I totally understand that, I'm just saying, does this wording allow for that to happen? That's
Which
all I'm saying.
wording?
Is that what you
Current
want to
wording?
happen, or is that what you not want to happen? I'm
If it's
discussing-
something to do with the town, that the town manager has authority over, the town manager should investigate.
Right.
Or for instance, let's just say the town accountant. If the town manager's been made aware of something, I still think there needs to be an avenue where the town manager can say, this is what happened. I'm not investigating, but this is the information I've received. They're gonna be working directly with the town accountant. If he notices, or she notices, that the town accountant did something wrong, there needs to be an avenue to say, look, here's all the information I have from the town council. I just wanna make sure that he can still bring that to the town council without having the town council go, we're the ones who have to investigate that, not you.
Yeah, I don't think anything
concern,
precludes him from
it's
doing
not-
that.
I was saying, I don't think this precludes him from doing that
No.
if he's got evidence of strong.
Especially because
right?
in previous ones, he's keeping town council apprised of anything that,
I'm just all I'm asking, as long as that they can, you know, because
Right.
he's probably gonna be the one that's,
Sees it.
knows
Right,
what's
he's
going
gonna
on,
see it.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think you should deal with all of the complaints. I mean, if you've got a complaint or a violation or investigation, or someone feels their rights have been violated, I think they should go to the town manager. I mean, I know we're talking
If
about
it's an
eliminating-
HR issue. But if we've got a ethic, conflict of interest,
So this is very broad though, right? This is not just a violation of a law that they've made aware of, right? This is, they can inquire at
Conduct
any
or-
time, conduct of the office or performance
Duty.
of the duties of any office. Doesn't mean that they violated any kind of law,
Right.
right? any department, board, commissioner, other town agency, whether appointed or elected. So do you really want, if there's a contentious relationship, the town manager investigating the school committee, the librarians, town council? The way it's written very broadly, not under his control.
Under the authority of the town manager is, I'm proposing changing it to either Palmer or Amherst's wording.
I would
Yeah.
agree, yes.
Yeah, otherwise, yes, I think this is
It's
far
very
too
broad.
broad.
Yeah, the only one who doesn't limit it is North Attleboro.
So,
Yeah,
and
you're
you're
not
saying the
less.
limitations are the school committee and the library trustees?
It's not limited now.
If you put it under the town manager's authority, then
And
that would
those are
take
the-
away library, school, and also,
Town
Council
council and the
and the
accountant.
accountant, and if the council has a clerk or whatever.
Yeah.
well, or any elected
Or
boards.
what?
Or any other elected boards, correct?
Well, the elected boards would also be sort of.
Under the town manager,
Because they're all
I
going to be
don't know where
advising
elected boards fall.
departments within the town, right? So the planning board works with the planner.
Right, but I'm thinking
Um,
of like, so can he, do we want him to be able to inquire about a planning board member?
I would
Because
think
they're
so.
not under his authority.
Yeah.
So we've got.
But is it under the, but if that's the case, then they're completely under town council. So if a situation is made aware that somebody from the planning board has done something wrong, illegal, whatever it may be, that asks for or needs to be investigated, does it fall under town council?
I don't think elected is
If
under
they're
anybody.
elected.
Right, they're
Um,
under,
But that's my question, is like, if somebody's been, and
but that's
again,
up to the voters, right? To recall or do whatever they want to do to.
but my question is, can the town manager weigh in on the facts of the case? Like, for instance, someone accuses planning board of doing something wrong. Can he gather information? I'm not saying reprimand them, punish them, do any of that stuff because he's elected, but he or she's elected. But can they say, voters, this is the investigation during the course of my duties as town manager? You decide what you're gonna, I can't,
Do we want him doing that, the elected for the position?
depends on how serious the
anybody can do that though, right?
I
You
understand
can
that, but the
collect,
town,
you can collect evidence on your own, you can file your own complaint.
town
with the
manager-
state
File it with the attorney general's.
Attorney generals, right? Anybody can do that. The town manager doesn't have to be one that does that.
And I don't think the town manager's gonna know anything more about an elected person than anybody else. Like,
Right,
for
'cause they're
example,
not an-
planner would know more, or about a planning board.
This doesn't
or the other
require it
planning-
to be based off of a complaint either. This could just be, he decides today, I feel like investigating the planning board to see if how they're performing their duties.
I understand that. If you're looking at it from that perspective, I totally understand what you're saying, is that just a free-for-all, and then
That's
investigate whatever you
that's the way it's
want.
written though.
I
And
get
since
that,
he,
but I'm
since
just,
he has no recourse on what to do with those people, why would you need
Right.
him to investigate?
I would like to be I can just see there being a way for the town council, if the town council wants to inquire on an elected official because there's been a complaint, okay? And it's a legit complaint, let's just say. Are they allowed to go to the town manager and say, can you give us any more information you have on this? I have a ton of information, but I'm not allowed to give it to you because it's, you know what I'm saying?
And
I don't think that's,
I think the bigger
There's a-
concern for me would be if town manager has an issue with positions that he did not himself put into place and doesn't like the way things are being done or doesn't like the decisions that they're making and he wants to stir the pot, he can decide, I'm gonna all of a sudden investigate those departments because they're not doing what I'd like to see them do, even though it's not his responsibility, not his role to make those decisions, right? It's a way of kind of, I think, using your power to,
So let's say the other way, what if the town manager has an issue with one of those people? It's a legitimate issue, okay?
there's a little legitimate issue that there's other mechanisms they can do to investigate. They don't have to have this broad language that they have today. This is very broad, that he can just investigate for no reason. This isn't a cause, right? There's no cause stirring this.
I understand, but do you still not want to give them any power whatsoever to say, go to town council says, hey, this is a major problem. We need to have you give us the information you have. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not telling you that, I agree with you. There should not be just a broad, like, just do whatever you want, investigate whoever you want. But on the same token, there may be a case where it comes up where one of these people that aren't appointed under his authority is maliciously hurting the town, doing something wrong, and he or she knows about it, has information about it. There needs to be an avenue where he or she, the town manager, can go either the town council, whatever, and say, we've got a major problem here.
I think there are avenues today. I don't think the town manager is the answer for all of them.
And there's nothing saying the town manager has to keep his mouth shut about anything, right?
Doesn't mean that he can't raise an issue and address it through mechanisms that are available to him. It just means that he can't willy-nilly decide, I want to start an investigation on this department that I didn't have anything to do with, but I just feel like causing a stir.
Right, and I would go back to what Sandy says, if he doesn't have authority over them, if he can't do anything about it because he's not their supervisor, why is he investigating them?
Well, should there be a complaint or an issue or something with even a member of the council who investigates that?
The public, right?
Right.
I mean,
The
you
public,
can vote him in, you
and
can
the
vote him
state
out.
ethics board.
Yeah,
If it's-
you file a
you
complaint
file a
with the
complaint
Attorney
with the state
General.
ethics board. Because
Okay,
there's
so-
nobody who supervises the council and can fire them or get rid of them as the people.
So my question would be is, again, I'm just kind of spitballing it, but if that exact situation happens when there's a complaint, a legitimate behavior that town council, somebody from town council did, the public brings up that issue and state ethics says, okay.
Anybody can file,
Okay, so we got
town manager can file a complaint if they
okay,
want.
so we got a major problem here, okay? The ethics board of the state declares that as a major problem. They come to the town manager, we need all the information.
Freedom of information has to be provided,
Okay,
yes.
so he provides all that information. Okay, that's what I'm saying is, and we,
It's not violating the charter. to do
It's
so.
not violating.
that's all I'm asking is,
No.
we don't want, I want to make sure that if he or she is asked for information from either town council, from the state, that we're not saying that, he can't say, sorry, it's not under my control, I can't do anything for you. I want to make sure that he,
Yeah.
yeah, there is a major
Provide
problem,
any
here you go.
information.
He has
just
to provide,
can't
he has to provide the
initiate it.
information that's being asked for.
He just
as a
can't
matter of fact.
initiate it.
Right, he just can't initiate it.
It can't be at his
When-
sole discretion. Yeah.
So a complaint or an issue comes to him, he has to take it, what?
That particular board.
I wouldn't think he wanted to be involved in that. I mean, right now, if I had an issue with somebody on the planning board and I went to him, I don't think he'd, don't elect him next time. Like that's you elected him, you put him in there.
I would say
If you
that,
want to do a recall, go do a recall, those are your
That's
options.
the
Yeah,
citizen-
I
as a
guess I'm
citizen, if I knew-
thinking
if I knew
more
someone-
than just someone might have a problem with someone on a board or a councilman. Like if there were a real, genuine complaint, concerns of a behavior of a person or something that reflects in that role.
But you can't do anything about it, right?
That's what I'm asking. Who
Right now,
does
you
anything?
can't now
Nobody-
either.
Nobody can do anything about that?
Not
Of
now
course you can.
either.
You can ask for Freedom of Information Act, ask for records, get your evidence, then go file a complaint.
Yeah. The avenues are the same presently.
You do that today.
Yeah, right now, if the town manager had an issue with somebody, I keep saying planning board, but any elected official, he has no power to get rid of them or do anything about it. See, this doesn't change, even though this says this, this basically is giving him the power to inquire about it, but not then, he doesn't have any right to do anything about that. So why even let him,
Well, you can't fire them.
right?
Are we voting?
What's that?
Are we voting?
Yeah, but I don't know if we decided, are we adding elected in there?
I thought I was just gonna take out whether appointed or elected and just say under the town manager's authority.
Okay, but the whole employee department, board, commission,
Well, I would read what you just said as like under the, I'm thinking schools, library.
yeah.
I would send
I think it has to be
I
under the
use-
authority of the town manager, or else that encompasses schools.
That's what I just said.
Right.
Under the town
Right, but you were
manager's
saying
authority.
leaving our wording as is,
I
which
said take out whether appointed or elected
Yeah,
and just say under the town manager's authority.
I would agree.
okay, so taking out officer, employee, department, board, commission, that whole line.
Well, no, any of those that are under the town manager authority.
Which now would be multiple boards
Okay,
and everything
got it.
else.
Got it.
Or other town agency under the town manager's authority.
Yeah, so all of those under the town manager authority. Are you saying you want to take out commission and board?
I like the Amherst one, as a direct, if we're gonna go that route.
So that only says town agency though, what about employees? 'Cause
Well, that would be
Employees
covered
would be
under
within
authority.
within the agency, but I'm not sure that it includes the commissions that we've now said the town manager is appointing. I don't know that that would come under agency.
It depends on how, if they've got a definition for agency.
Yeah.
Maybe Watertown, just require officer, employee, the department under his or her supervision.
I think again, it depends on the definition of officer.
So we want the town manager to be able to, we want to include commission and board, correct?
Yeah, fine, fine.
If they're under.
Yeah, okay, so then, again, can we leave it up to, if Lauren wants to wordsmith it?
Yeah.
That she knows that we want all those people included. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
All right,
So P we took out completely.
Yep. Don't need it, hopefully. Q, reorg, consolidate, abolish in the manner provided by Article 5 is, what is Article 5? Administrative organization. Okay. Town agencies serving under the supervision of the town manager in whole and part, provide for new town agencies, provide for reassignment of power, duties, responsibilities among such agencies, so established or existing. I think this was fairly, actually surprised a couple of them didn't have it.
And the ones who do say with approval of town council.
Town agencies serving under the supervision of town manager, in whole or in part. Do we want town council to have any authority over that? If he decides he wants to establish a human resources department, should the town council have any say in that? Or if he wants to consolidate,
Well, so they'd have to appropriate the money for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
consolidate, let's just say, the assessors and the tax collector's office under a new department name. I think we need to give the town manager latitude within his
I think so
jurisdiction.
too. I think so too.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I go back to 2, I don't know why we put more restrictions than what we have now.
Yeah.
If it's not like causing
Yeah.
an issue now, then why?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they'd still have to approve the budgetary changes that go along with it.
Right.
Yes.
Let her figure out how to best manage.
Yeah, I guess I was just
Going
thinking
on
if it's
into
a more political, or like a bigger decision, like creating a DPW, for example.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of touch points there. It's a pretty big decision.
So, but I guess I don't understand where, there's gotta be limits to being, what this says, because if we want a DPW, we have to put it in charter.
Yes.
So, what's, right? So what's this
Oh,
saying is
actually-
different? Is this just saying he can like say, the historic commission, the historic district commission are gonna be one
Yes.
body? Like
Yep.
smaller decisions? If he wants to do something bigger where it has a department head and like a DPW, I don't think this gives.
I think he
No
could.
distinction here.
I think he could make a bigger decision, but if we've directed that we want a DPW instead of, under which highway and water and sewer is gonna come, that'll be set up first, but if down the road it looks like that's not efficient, I can't imagine that's what they're gonna decide. But if a way they've originally set it up is inefficient and they wanna consolidate a couple of 8 departments, he could do that, or she could do
So
that.
part of that 5.1 in our charter now for the bylaws, it has a kind of a catch-all at the end. It says, however, that no function assigned by this charter to a particular town agency may be discontinued or assigned to any other town agency unless this charter specifically so provides.
So we can limit it,
So
So that's what limits it?
yeah.
that's what you would be able to say. So the only way that if we eliminated 5.1, it just basically gave him or her a free-for-all to do whatever they wanted, yes. But if the charter specifically does it, he'd have to get some type of other approval. But the little things that
Yeah.
aren't in the charter,
Right.
which like I said, I agree with you, why are we gonna, I think big things that are in charter, DPWs and all that stuff, should be brought to somebody.
Yeah, right.
North
yeah.
Attleboro has in there that says, however, that such reorganization or consolidation shall not eliminate any of the boards, committees, commissions, or positions included in this charter. So the only ones we've included in the charter, right, those 5 we spoke about earlier, and then essentially DPW. So that would protect those positions from being reorged?
No, because they would be under all the other appointings that the town manager would have, because it would be in the charter.
Right, but if we use North Attleboro's wording,
if we use
we're
that
limiting
wording-
it just like 5.1 does.
Yeah, if we're using that wording, then that would exclude those from his ability to being able to
Touch.
abolish them.
Right.
But
So
does
the latter, I
does
think.
5.1 do the same thing?
It sounded like it.
You can't take
Does-
water.
so-
Unless you change the charter.
Because they have water commissioners. You gotta get rid of the water commissioners first before you can make it.
So it
Right.
says,
It's in your notes.
But right now, the town manager can do it if there was no commissioners.
Yeah,
As long as they're commissioners, he can't touch it, make it DPW. But
Yeah,
if he
he's
weren't
saying-
there, he could do it.
see, he's referring to 4-2 Qs. I just happened to be reading this today. As far as having a public works department, if you look in current charter under 4-2Q, the water and sewer commission would eliminate, the town manager could establish a public works department. That was Mike's memo to Keith back in January.
so I don't know how much, unless this charter specifically so provides, it sort of so provides it in this clause, right? And clearly, we've consolidated many of these that we have listed in the charter today. So this the way it's worded now, it says, "Where that no function assigned by this charter to a particular town agency may be discontinued or assigned to any other town agency unless this charter specifically so provides."
Right, so if the charter doesn't say you can change it, you can't change it. So it's worded differently than North Attleboro. I think it's trying to get at the same thing.
I do
And
too.
just, if the charter says you have to have this department, you have to have that department. And even though you can reorganize other departments, you can't reorganize this one.
So,
I think they're trying to accomplish the same thing, but I like the
Yeah.
North Attleboro
Instead of
wording.
saying, go look at Article 5, they're just putting it in all in one spot.
I like the North Attleboro wording.
my question would be is if, for instance, right now, because we have a historical commission and a historical district, whatever we have, because it doesn't specifically say in the charter that those things have to stay, town manager, under this direction could say, I'm merging both.
Yes.
So if we leave that, and that comes up 5 years from now, and town manager now, town manager, new town manager wants to merge them together, let he or she merge them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But things like fire and police and all that other stuff, because they specifically say that they're in there, you're just not gonna merge,
Right.
large
Right.
groups like that.
Well, you could merge them under a emergency
Yeah.
services.
But I mean, several of these are merged already, right? If you look at what we have in here, like, Keith, aren't you the highway superintendent and the tree, are you the tree warden too?
Tree cemetery, recreation.
Right? So many of these are today already merged. I'm assuming that probably the building inspector also is the wiring inspector, the gas inspector.
He has, he
No,
has
he
He
certain.
has other inspectors.
Oh, he does have other
He's
ones?
in charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's in charge, yeah.
So are we good with that wording then, or what do we decide?
That's a lot to fit on the business card.
I think so, yeah. And I don't think the town council should have any approval over it. Moving on? Okay. R, coordinate activities of all town agencies serving under the office of town manager, striking, is there an office of the town council? Coordinate all activities of town agencies serving under the office of town manager, agencies serving under. Do we have any agencies serving under the Board of Selectmen? Not the Board of Selectmen, sorry, town council.
We have them appointing, but they're gonna be employees of the town.
Can we just do Amherst, coordinate activities of all town agencies?
Yeah, just keep
Short
it
and
simple, yeah. They're all
ours
kind of
is
short
very
and simple,
wordy.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, ours is longer than everybody's.
Yeah.
My question with it, if we did go to that, coordinate activities of all town agencies, how does that work with the school, the only ones that would be excluded from that because of state law are school and library? Because if not, then, like, for instance, if,
So I guess how are town agencies defined? Are they defined as, does the definition of town agencies exclude library and schools?
that's my question. What I'm just saying is, if the town manager, say, wanted to coordinate activities of all town agencies, where I can picture that being like, something that would come up is, let's say he or she sees equipment from school services, trucks and all that other stuff, and they say, well, we can coordinate them into a joint combined effort with DPW. Is that something they can do because of that wording, or they still can't touch it because it's schools?
I don't think it has anything to do with moving assets. I think it has more to do with coordinating like meetings and stuff like that.
Working together.
Working
That's what I'm
together,
thinking.
yeah.
I like that.
Should I just put in there for Lauren?
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
make it pretty?
Yeah.
Can we make it shorter? I mean, I don't,
Less
we don't
words.
have any issue with anything in there, right?
I would just, and again, if you
Consolidate.
just maybe ask her, or I can ask her when she comes back. My question would be, and I don't know if it's under that thing, but I know it was brought up before, like, and I don't know if it's under this article or something else, like, is it something that precludes a town manager from seeing something like that? For instance, the school's asking for,
So the town manager does have an inventory list, right, of what everybody has, right? So certainly, I don't think that he can say, I'm gonna take your dump truck and use it for town stuff, but I think they can probably work together and say, can I use the dump truck X percent of the time or something like that? I'm sure they could coordinate some kind of a,
but that's what I'm asking, is there something in there right now that already allows us to do that, or is it we need to lay something like that out? That's my question. Because I really don't see much of that happening right now. Yeah, because it's you.
Well, I know when she went through this last meeting, she said that she went through every line and said everything was important for some reason. So, I don't specifically remember what she said about this one, but, I don't think it hurts.
I guess I'm just curious, like, if the school goes out tomorrow to ask for a backhoe, is it something that the town manager can already say, time out, I know you guys are schools, but we don't need a backhoe, we can coordinate with DPW or highway for that type of
Probably
use?
suggest it, but I don't think you can't mandate how he spends his money, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna defer to Lauren on the wording of that. Okay. Our S is in Sam, perform any of the duties as required, as are required to be performed by the town manager by bylaw, administrative code, striking, changing votes of the town council and striking or votes of the board of selectmen or otherwise, whatever otherwise encompasses. I kind of like North Attleboro's. Falls in line with Franklin to some extent.
Simple and says the same thing.
Yep.
Frankly, Franklin gets right to the point in most cases.
Right, yeah.
What's that?
Simple
Really short.
and, simple and to
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah.
Franklin's by far the shortest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that Amherst was probably the longest.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for, is there anything we're missing, Franklin's not.
I always read Amherst's first, because theirs is definitely the lowest.
Yeah, it's like,
Usually, like,
yeah.
most wordy.
Yeah.
But usually well written.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're all pretty close, other than like a word here and there that's different, but those three, the North Attleboro, Amherst, and Franklin ones.
Are we good with us?
Yeah,
Yep.
Yep.
And T we're taking out?
less and more.
Ooh, that's the last one, right?
Yep, and then for 3, I think next. Oh, that's just generic, you can tell any of this, you can delegate any of this
Yeah.
tasks.
You've got in here section 4.3. Are we addressing that now?
Yeah, that's what I just said, that just,
Did I miss it entirely?
that just gives him the right to authorize a subordinate to do something like that.
Okay. Got no issue with that. All right. That was not as quick as I hoped. All right, we've gone through the existing. In the second list, powers, duties, roles that were not in the Norton Charter. I highlighted a few that I liked. Most of them are aspirational, although with the exception of I think we do need, because we've already agreed that the town council president and the town manager will go and make a state of the town address. So that should probably be included. What's that?
Didn't we already include that someplace else?
Yes, town council president's duties.
Do we usually put it in 2 places like that?
Well, if we want the town councilor president and the town manager to make a joint address, then yes, I think so. That was what was decided, that the town council.
No, I know, I just don't know that we need to put it 2 places. I think if it's 1 place, it's covering what we're.
Well,
I mean,
if it's
we're
not in
also
his
gonna have a
duties,
whole-
he
we're
could
also-
say, I don't have to do that.
We're also gonna have a whole list under the financial procedures of things he has to do.
Okay.
We're not gonna put those all in here too, are we?
Under duties, no.
But there are gonna be duties in there, right, that are,
No, but I think it's a good idea to set expectations that he needs to make a state of the union, a state of the town address. And right now, it is not clear to him, other than within town council president saying that with the town manager, you'll do it.
can we ask Lauren about that? Because I feel like putting the same thing twice is kind of redundant.
Okay. But how are you compelling the town manager to make a state of the town address?
It's in the charter, just not under this section.
But it's only under the town council president's duties.
But I don't think he's just gonna read the town council, the town manager's duties and not look at anything else in the charter. He has to follow the whole charter.
Okay. I'm just thinking that it is not compelling him to do so.
Can we just ask Lauren?
Yeah.
Okay.
My only other ones were aspirational and, they sound good.
Do, the authority to prosecute, defend, and compromise all litigation. I don't know if I like that particular wording, but, do we address who handles litigation anywhere or not?
Lauren suggested it should be town manager.
Right. But we don't talk about it now in his roles and duties, right?
I'm sorry, which one are you looking at?
There's no numbers, but,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Litigation.
Prosecute, defend that one?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what parts of these are already state law. And they're just redundant. in state law.
Wasn't Lauren gonna come up with a list to add, because she was talking about like some towns go to like Dublin. So I thought she was gonna come back with like something.
maybe just put a question mark with that one, say, does state law require it, or should we add it? Just so we have somewhere who's responsible for litigating, right?
My other question, in two of these, 3 and 4 down, the bullets. I don't know if this would belong in the budgetary duties, or if it's something that we put in here, but both of those, I think, from East Longmeadow or North Attleboro, kind of go on what some of the people are asking in those surveys.
I liked number 4.
Yeah, like I said, I know it's 2 different towns, but both of those, I think, hit on some of the things that we were seeing repeated amounts in the surveys of long-term plans and, again, I know it's a kind of a wish list thing, but.
Yeah, but it
putting-
talks about not only financial, but,
Yeah.
programmatic.
I know there's some other things in here too, but those 2 kind of jumped out to me just because it's, I think, something that we can show when we put this forward to the townspeople is we
heard
made
it.
this a point to put this in here as a duty of the town manager, so this is,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Number
'cause I think we
6.
already have a 5-year financial plan addressed, but not like the overall town plan. yet.
and like East Longmeadow shall prepare, I don't know, like I know she said that wording was shall and all that other stuff, like, but whatever way we can say it, that he or she has to do this, because I think it's,
Yeah, I like their wording better than the North Attleboro one.
yeah, just because it says shall prepare, update in conjunction with department heads, boards of the town and town council, the residency long-range plan every 5 years, like, I think that wording alone addressed some of the stuff that was brought up to us in any of our meetings, and it was brought up multiple times in that survey when we went through it. Again, I'm not saying it has to be that exact wording, I just think that
Yeah.
it should definitely be in here.
I like 4 better though, personally. I
The
think it's
North
driven-
Attleboro one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's driven by the town council, so in other words, let them, if they want a 5-year plan done, then he assists them in doing that, rather than the shell prepare.
My question was, if we use that wording and add something that they must do it. I just don't want it to be something that we talk about and nothing ever gets done about it. You know?
Yeah, I personally don't like the must do.
Well, even if we do,
Yeah, I know.
There's nothing to
it has,
enforce
there's no
that.
teeth here.
Yeah, I thought the shell meant you have to.
I think it
Theoretically,
depends, yeah. If it's directing,
Yeah,
I forget exactly how it went.
but if there's
It's
no,
confusing.
if there's no enforcement mechanism, if there's no penalty, then
Yeah.
I just think it would be nice that if it says shall, and I understand there's no enforcement mechanism, but if I'm a town resident and I go to a meeting and say,
oh yeah, no, I totally understand. what
well,
you're
yeah,
saying.
I got a few people who go to tell me and say, where is this? We're supposed to be doing this. I want to see this. Where if we don't put that type of thing, they say, well, we'll if we can get to it, we will. Like, this is something that they like.
Yeah, but I
Well,
think
in
it's-
theory, you'd hope that would be you'd hope you're measuring your town manager goals and objectives for the year against complying with the charter, right?
Yeah.
So that would be one thing you could say, like, you didn't perform, you do these all, here's the areas where you failed or fell, or whatever.
Yeah, but likewise though, if the town council just doesn't feel, for whatever reason, that they don't want a 5-year
Exactly.
plan, I don't see, so yeah, you can't hold them accountable to not done something that town council,
Right.
For
for whatever reason,
more
doesn't
leeway.
want.
Yeah.
I will
So
say-
it's- And then you kind of create a situation where someone from the town is like, well, it says you can do it, you're supposed to do it, you didn't
Right.
do it.
So then if you use the North Attleboro example you like better to assist the town council it kind of takes the onus off of them, right? It's only to assist them, so if they're not doing anything, then,
The town council has to direct them to do it.
Right.
See, I like the East Long Meadow one because since the town manager is responsible, is the policy setting office, it really should be them who's preparing something like this rather than the town council. They should do it in consultation with the town council, but the policy and implementation should be coming from the executive, not the
Yeah,
legislative.
that's a good thing.
I just,
at the end of the day, he has to direct his departments to follow, yeah.
Right, but he's also setting the policy.
That's what I mean,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so.
but if he's gonna go on and hire these department heads,
Yeah.
part of that discussion, when you hire the department head, should be a 5-year plan is something that you continually work on because what we need to prepare to present this. I just think we've been told how many times in these surveys about long-term plan and we don't have a plan and all sorts of stuff like I just do not want to give it as a, well, maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't. Like I want, if there's any way to hold somebody to it or at least ask questions and say, why isn't this done? I think it should be in the charter.
No,
It's one of the things that was asked for multiple times by citizens.
I-
We don't have it, we don't do it, it's something that needs to be changed. We're looking for problems, we know that's a problem.
Right.
And again, I know there's a lax of enforcement and everything like that, but I would like the ability to be able to go to or anybody to go to a town council meeting and say, why are we not doing this?
Yeah.
It specifically says it in the charter, we should be working on this, the town manager should be the
agree.
one doing it.
I mean, it should be like a guiding document, right? So when you're making a decision, do I use this land for X or Y? Well, what's in the 5-year plan? What does that look like? What should the...
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
We like 3?
I like 3 more than 4.
Me too.
I'm indifferent, I don't care.
And whatever she has to word, I don't care what the wording is, just something to,
I was going for 4 but I agree with Carrie's point that it's more of a policy matter.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the only reason I like that one better.
I like 3 because it includes the residents in the wording too.
Yeah.
Participation,
I'm fine with 3.
communication.
Do we also need something like 8 or 9 to specifically identify how we're gonna figure out who is our regional representative on regional boards? I don't know if we have that anywhere else.
yeah, like spread,
I think it's the Board of
Serpent?
Selectmen right now.
Serpent? Is that what you're thinking?
spread, whatever, yes.
Serpent, yeah.
So, I call it spread. You know about that, right?
A little bit.
I feel like that's presently within the Board of Selectmen's duties. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I can't, that's what I mean, I can't remember if we've already.
Well, so, I don't know how that works. So the Serpent has a planning board and a board of selectmen designee. And usually, I would say most towns send a planning board member and a board of selectmen member. So we're one of the few towns that the board of selectmen then appoints somebody else, but I am their designee, I'm not the town manager's designee. So I would think town council, I'm trying to think of what towns have town council, I would think I would be the town council's designee.
But
So I don't
if
think
it's
we want
currently
him
Board of
there.
Selectmen, it would
Yeah,
like
transfer.
default to town manager.
No, but I'm saying it's the way Serpent has it set up.
Yeah.
Is they have a town council rep and a planning board rep.
Oh,
I
okay.
think, I don't think they have a town manager rep, I think they have a town council rep.
Sorry, I thought you said Board of
Select-
Selectmen.
They do, right now, they have board,
Yeah.
like either a board of selectmen, I mean, I can find out, but they have either, board of selectmen and a planning board. But I'm thinking in the cities, it's town council and planning.
And I think one of the wordings here says unless otherwise specified by the regional agreement. So really, the regional agreement would decide
Right,
who, ultimately, but if it didn't say who should be on
because
it.
we also have the,
Town manager would do it.
crack.
We also flipped.
That's the crack one.
The Canoe River Aquifer, I
Oh,
think that's a
right,
regional.
yeah.
Yeah.
Who right now, I think she said board of selectmen appoints him, so I would guess that would go with the
Yeah.
town manager.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like, what, we're gonna be going to that rec for the dispatch,
Right.
which is gonna be a 4-town,
Okay.
us, Easton, Foxborough, Mansfield, and Foxborough are already in. ourselves and East are gonna be joining, but that's gonna be the same thing, so like, that's gonna fall under the town manager's discretion on who will, if he or she wants to be the liaison, that's fine, or they can appoint.
Well, we have the sewer, right?
Because right now, like,
The regional sewer.
Oh, right.
And so it's either, so basically this would say, I would imagine that he would appoint somebody to be our.
Right.
person.
Anyway, I'm just saying, if we don't already have some wording like this in there, we might want to include it.
Yeah, I don't think.
and I think it's gonna be important to have the wording, like, for instance, I can just pitch it with records, you have towns with board of selectmen. So they have they have board of selectmen's meetings with each of these towns for that recreational, rec dispatch. So if we go to a town council, I think the town manager has to be, or have the ability to put somebody there to be a
Yeah.
representative for us, or
Yeah.
he or she can be the representative for us, but I think it's a lot to ask.
So do we care which one, or we just say, this is the,
For the language? you mean?
yeah,
What's the two examples?
unless otherwise provided by intermunicipal regional agreement, and then. Well, actually, I like that one better because it says unless otherwise provided, right? The other one doesn't make that distinction.
The Amherst one?
Yeah, I like the Amherst one better.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I
the
do
one below
too.
it is
North
one.
Attleboro doesn't have,
Yeah, I like the Amherst one. And then to Kevin's earlier point, promote dialogue and partnership among the town council, town employees, residents, businesses, and other local entities. I think that resonated with a lot of us when we were talking about the Amherst charter and sort of what things we had heard from the public.
I also like the sixth one, which is similarly related, but also addresses a very specific complaint within the survey with regards to lack of communication.
Yep.
And I know we talked about, I don't know how many more down it is, about, trying to figure out what number it is.
And which one did you say, Carrie?
So it was, it's 10. I think it's 10 down, so it's right under similar to.
Promote dialogue?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2 down from that one, it says attend and participate in not fewer than 3 public forums each year addressing, 1, the budget as provided in Article 5, 2, the master plan, and 3, school matters provided in a section that's from Amherst. I know we talked about that last meeting on the minutes.
well, we said that he would
Yeah, I
have
figured
2
exactly.
meetings with
Right.
the superintendent, and then the 2 boards would meet twice a year. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think some type of wording that we incorporated that what we talked about last week into there. I know I think Dawn was gonna write
Yeah, I
that
had-
up somehow, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Up and fall under those duties, just so.
Yeah, I like our wording better than that wording.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Don't ask me to put the words in, I do the slightest thing.
So are we putting in 6 and 10?
I would put them in for now, and we can always revisit once we see it all put together.
So what
But I
are,
like those 2
so you're
specifically.
putting in 6 and 10, and then you're putting in separately the requirement to meet twice a year with school committee and,
We did that
was
last
different.
meeting.
we did do it?
Lauren,
Okay.
like that, yeah.
I don't know where that came under.
It was.
Yeah.
We talked about
She
it.
said
was
she was
town
gonna
council,
incorporate it.
yeah, it was just requiring a.
No, I remember
a
what it was
discussion.
saying, but I just
We
don't remember what
talked about it
section
under
of our charter.
FinCom.
Yeah,
I think it was under town council.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure where she was gonna put
Yeah.
that.
She'll figure it
Table.
So we said, I'm sorry, 6 and 10, right? Yeah.
So right now, we've got 3, 6, and 10. We want to add 11 as a question for Lauren to weigh in on. The only other one that I thought we should probably put in there is on the second page, the very first full bullet. Provide, assign, or appoint staff for the town council, council president, and town council members. In the event
3,
that
6, 8, and 10, right?
Yes, I was just gonna say. Did you get
3,
8?
6, oh, 8, sorry.
So, why would we include that? Because the yearly 6 town council is gonna pick their own clerk, right?
Right.
And the councils are all elected.
Right, but let's say we don't get an appropriation for a town clerk, and we need somebody to record the meeting minutes.
Right. So, but I think we said if, subject to appropriation, otherwise it was gonna be the town clerk.
Town clerk, yeah.
So do we want it to be somebody separate other than the town clerk?
I think we want to allow them the ability to give us somebody else other than the town clerk, because the town clerk does not want
I
to
agree
come
with
to.
you.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that she had to do it, it's just that somebody in her office could do it.
Yes, and that's what this provides for. Provide, assign, or appoint staff support for town council, president, and town council members.
That's what Lauren's language did.
I just want to make sure it doesn't conflict with
Right.
town council's ability to appoint their own
Yes.
clerk.
And I'm fine consolidating those into, but I forget where.
So Lauren's language already included that as a.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's, she said,
Because the budget didn't provide for a clerk, that someone in the town clerk's office would.
town clerk is responsible for these duties, and she said that doesn't mean that the town clerk specifically, but that she had to find somebody in her office.
All right,
to do it.
then I'm good.
Yeah.
We've already covered the highlighted areas, right?
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody felt strongly about?
So just, and I don't know if it's covered by state law or covered somewhere else, but the signing of the bonds and note for borrowing.
Right. Yeah, that should be in there as well. I don't know how much is covered by state law.
Right.
We want to ask her if that's in, because
Yeah.
Amherst was the only one who put that in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my guess is that that's somewhere else.
Just want to make sure that we don't leave it.
So I'm gonna ask her about 8 and whatever that one is.
I mean, I guess we don't address it today, so we're, you know.
Yeah, the last one.
So those two, 8 and 20, no, not 8 and 20, sorry, 7 and 20. I'll ask her if they're part of state law, right?
Yeah.
7, 11, and 20.
No, well, that's a different one. 11's a different question.
Right, but I thought these were the ones you were referring to, Lauren.
7 and 20, I'm asking her if they're part of state law.
Okay, got it. Sorry, I am having a lot of trouble hearing. I've got a fan behind me. Yeah. Okay, are everybody happy here? Are we good on the limit on warrants? We're not gonna deal with that?
No, I think we just decided what you want to put in.
Yep. In favor of that? Okay. 9:30, water and sewer. Just gonna shift papers. So, sorry, I should have handed these over earlier, I forgot about it. And I apologize for the tiny printing, but I was rushed, so I didn't have time to make it bigger. Take one and pass it along. So I went through of the charters. Here too, but that's just for later. So I went through the 12 closest town sizes to us that have town council, and went through and figured out which specifically had public works departments, and was sort of surprised to find, with the exception of Bridgewater, which has a section in their website called Public Works. It is not really a department because it's made up of 5 divisions, each of which has its own superintendent, and there is no director of which, so I am not calling that a Department of Public Works. But otherwise, all 11 other towns with a town council did have a Department of Public Works. What I then went on to look to see was whether they still maintained some sort of water sewer commission or board. And you can see the results there. In a couple of instances, specifically Randolph's were for the purposes of meeting with other towns. So there was a Randolph-Holbrook Joint Water Board, and then there was a Tri-Town Water Board, which included Randolph-Holbrook and Braintree. But it was not as an advisory board to the DPW. It was to kind of protect their individual interests where they had shared either services or water bodies, that sort of thing. For giggles, I checked off whether or not there was an engineer or some other professional on staff, and then went through and determined who's actually setting the water and sewer rates. So in general, so that's the first page. The second one, the one with all the little X's and O's on it, I went through each of the individual towns and determined, so in the case of a public works department, they are typically separated by what are referred to as divisions. And these were the major divisions outlined, and they are in order of most to least common. So with the exception of Chelsea, which had no specifically defined division, but they seem to oversee all of those areas. Everybody's public works department consisted of some manner of highway, road, sidewalks. In some cases that encompassed fleets of vehicles. They all encompassed water. Vast majority of them encompassed structures and grounds of some sort, whether it was specifically stating cemeteries only or parks and fields only, but that was further specified. Then there was sewer, obviously by applicability, solid waste and recycling / transfer station. In some of these towns, they actually have a transfer station where you bring your waste. Solid waste tended to be if the town had contracted specifically for trash removal and or recycling removal, or had provided some sort of ability to do so. Next one was engineering and technical support, and those were the towns that specifically had an engineering department with an engineer on staff. Avail and technical support it would fall within the jurisdiction of the DPW, but they provided support to all town services. So for example, if conservation or planning needed an engineer, or some other area needed an engineer that fell outside of the DPW, they would assist them as well. Getting into the lesser used ones, there was, I joined them kind of by category: wetland protection, pollution control, wastewater management. Then there was stormwater management, drainage and erosion control. In some cases, the tree warden or forestry fell within the DPW, which actually makes sense since he's the tree warden. And then one of them had a whole division in Franklin supported directly to the admin of the DPW, including planning, regulatory compliance, and community relations. I think the questions that we need to consider tonight, I think we have discussed this previously and all seem to be in general consensus that we would like to move forward with a DPW. Am I wrong in that? Has anybody had a change of heart? I think when we had originally discussed it, there was the combination of, we had just considered highway and water and sewer combining for a DPW, but there are some, potentially other areas.
No tree warden in cemeteries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you do stormwater too, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I would say everything under, what's currently under the highway
Yeah.
department,
Yeah.
Yes.
as
And
well as
water and
the
sewer.
under water and sewer
Yeah.
department.
Yeah.
In
Which
some
includes
cases.
all
Which
those-
includes everything.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So that takes care of
Yeah.
all those other.
But in some
pieces.
cases, like in the case of Bridgewater, the engineer is also the conservation agent. And a lot of their pollution, wetlands control, stormwater management fell within the DPW. So they took a lot of the things that may fall within conservation within the DPW, which was sort of interesting. I
Well,
think that's a
that's-
function of,
Keith, isn't that your job right now? The
Stormwater, yeah.
Yeah, that's Keith's, that's not conservation.
okay,
Right, but
Um,
she's got wetlands protection.
pollution, yeah, wetlands
Right.
protection,
Listed, which is interesting that would come under,
pollution
because
control.
it's controlled by state law.
Right, yeah,
For
right.
the most part.
But my-
And I think the other thing, well, what town was that?
It was in a few towns. Now,
Yeah.
it tended to be ones that had quite a bit of water, so Barnstable. Palmer surprisingly has quite a few rivers. Bridgewater, I don't know how much water there is. In Amherst, I don't know if there's any waterways. North Attleboro actually has some form of one of those in there.
I don't think we want to touch conservation. I mean, that would change.
Yep.
Like-
Just for,
My only
discussion.
question would be is if, like, something like, for instance, like this, the engineer on staff, if they need to go and get plans, or plans need to be reviewed for a project for a culvert.
So I think we're jumping ahead because I don't know, I think a town engineer is a separate question.
yeah, and we have no control at this point. We can recommend it within the transition
Right.
procedures.
So when
But-
you define though, like, let's say, whatever we decide to call the head of public works department, right? Director or
Yes.
superintendent,
The,
you define their qualifications as well, right?
yes, and, to the extent possible, should be an engineer, but it's going to be subject to appropriations. I read I think it was Randolph was the last one I read just last year, on the MMA, had a job posting for the DPW director. It specified in there needed to be an engineer, and the person that was in place, you'll notice Randolph does not have, actually Randolph does have an engineer on staff, then it's not Randolph. One of them does not have an engineer on staff, it is.
No, I think you should
Winthrop
build
doesn't
I think
have
you should
one.
build in some flexibility, but,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's going to be subject to, available funds.
My only question about that whole thing with the engineering is if they did hire an engineer with certain qualifications that the Conservation Commission does not have now, then how does it have to specifically outline in the charter that these things will fall under that? That's all my question is. Or does it and my question is to Laura, does it automatically fall because that person, he or she of the DPW director is an engineer and has the ability to review those things?
In
So-
every town, I was gonna say, in every town, I do this as my day job. In every town I work in where there is a town engineer, they always render their opinion for conservation when they need it. Sometimes they still need to go out to peer review if it's a complex case and the town engineer can't handle it, but they always work cooperatively together because they're both town agencies.
I would just say, if that.
It's cost
does-
savings, right?
Well, that's what I'm like,
Yeah,
that's what I was
yeah.
gonna say, is if you're gonna send out if you're gonna have an engineer that's on, and it's a small project, right now, we're sending out a peer review, correct? It's costing
But it's
thousands,
not,
a
but
lot
it's
of
not
money.
costing us. So I think that's the
Right.
that,
But I'm saying for town,
Unless-
but for town jobs.
no, so I'm less concerned about conservation even being able, I mean, it's great if they want to, if they want to consult with an engineer, that's great, but it's not saving us any money, because right now, the applicant pays for the peer review.
What about for projects in town? If
Yeah.
he's gotta put a culvert,
Oh.
So then the engineer would be working for him, not for conservation agent. Right? That they,
but that's what I'm saying, is if they have those licenses,
so
They should be the sole-
conservation wouldn't be then looking for the engineer. Keith will be looking for the
So she's not
engineer.
initiating projects, what you're saying?
Right.
Projects coming to her for review, but she's not
Right.
necessarily initiating, so she wouldn't necessarily need to garner.
Right, I mean, she
Engineering
could,
support.
whatever, that would be a nice bonus, I'm sure, but I guess I'm less concerned about that because I don't feel like that's really costing us anything right now anyway.
The only thing you may be doing is encouraging business to come here knowing that they have a review thing on site they don't have to pay for.
That they, yeah, that they will.
So for instance, if you're gonna have, if part of your project is putting in culverts and this and wastewater and all that other stuff, and they're subjected to, hey, go review this, and they're not saying no to peer review and costing the company.
Let's not
I
be
gotta say,
crazy. In the
mo-
permitting, it's going to be reflected in the cost somewhere.
Yeah, and
Whether
most-
it's an outright
No, I'm not
Most
invoice.
saying-
developers
yeah,
know
yeah.
they're gonna pay that anyway, like
Yeah.
they expect to pay for a peer review.
Yeah, my guess is the town would probably account for some hourly rate for that person and charge probably the requester that amount.
Yeah, but to Sandy's point, like that's where having an engineer comes in handy, is when we need it for our town
Yeah.
projects.
I gotta
You
tell you
can
that,
prioritize it for yourselves too, right?
Yeah.
Versus you are one of 100 customers and they'll get to it when they get to it, if it's on your staff, they're working solely for you.
Right. But is there enough work to support it? For a full-time
Town
job?
hall, put engineers. The work-
yes, but I don't see, I mean, again, I feel like I don't wanna push for too much, right? I would love a DPW director, an IT person, or this and that, whatever, you know, but I think the only thing I would really feel comfortable putting in the charter, would be the DPW director.
Having a strong
and-
preference for an engineering background.
And I think
Yeah.
that's gonna be hard to find, but I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to put it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
and
agree, that way.
It would be a
it's-
great bonus, but it seems like it's really hard to find DPW directors right now.
Yeah.
Right.
2 of these towns have what are referred to as assistant engineers. They're engineers in training, so they're not fully licensed
Yeah.
at this point. So, and like I said, I did look at quite a few job listings where, you know, there was a specific preference for an engineer and they did not wind up with one. They wound up, somebody within the, you know, highway department wound up with the job.
Yeah.
So if we get a DPW superintendent and then leave it on the town manager to figure out what the qualifications may or may not be, depending on how many people apply for the job and what's out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the qualifications could potentially be outlined within the charter, just like town manager qualifications, whether or not, you know, we find somebody that
And depending
meets all
on,
of
and
them.
depending on money availability and
Yeah,
you're talking,
exactly.
you're gonna pay an engineer, you're gonna,
Yeah, exactly.
that salary's gonna be.
Okay, so I think we've come around to, yes, we want to have a DPW. It should include definitely highway and water and sewer. Cemeteries, trees, things of that nature should also be included. An engineer to the extent possible. I think that was about the extent of it. Highway would include roads,
So-
sidewalks.
Just for clarification, are you saying an engineer separately or that the department head will have an engineering background?
I don't, if we can get that sort of economy of scale of having the DPW director being the engineer, that would be great. Because otherwise, then they have to pay for both a DPW director and an engineer.
Right, so I'm thinking it'd be easier to get one big figure salary that's doing the
Yes.
right department head and engineering versus 2 big figure salaries and you separate the 2 of them into different roles.
Yes.
I don't know that again, I feel like an engineer is a different position, I don't know that I want to include in my DPW.
A separate engineer.
I
Yeah.
think DPW director is what.
I agree.
If we can get that, that's a huge step forward from where we are right now.
We're never gonna get the money for an engineer separate from
No.
a director.
But what are you saying,
Yeah,
you don't want to include that within the description of the director?
I would be fine with saying if possible or whatever.
Yeah.
we
Have some
word it.
flexibility, yeah.
That if it's possible to get an engineer in that DPW director spot, that would be fantastic.
But what
But I don't want-
you're not saying that you don't want the DPW director to not be an engineer. I think I used a double negative on that. Yeah, I did.
I would love for the DPW director to be an engineer.
Okay.
I don't want to require it, and but I also don't want a separate engineer listed.
Got it.
I might even put a little bit strong language that there's a strong preference for the director to have an engineering background, but allowing flexibility still, right?
Yeah. A couple of these DPW directors have degrees in like civil engineering, but not necessarily a licensed engineer.
And that is a big difference because, again, when Keith needs somebody to stamp his, whatever, his
It needs to be
engineer seal,
licensed.
it has to be a,
Yeah.
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 Okay. All right, so we have a general consensus. I think the thing we need to discuss now is what happens to the Water and Sewer Commission. Few options that are available. There can be, the town council can be the Water and Sewer Commission. I think Amherst does that specifically. Do we want a separate one? If they're a separate one, what is their role and responsibilities, i.e. who sets water rates, for example, and how they are appointed, whether they're elected or appointed, and how much power do they have if they are a separate entity?
So how about, one of the other ones we have a combination, right, of some town council and some.
Those are subcommittees, and we could have a DPW subcommittee. And that was one of the things that Lauren had brought up if we decided to go that route.
I'm talking about for the actual commission.
Yep. The DPW subcommittee could technically be your Water and Sewer Commission.
Gotcha.
So my only take on this is, obviously, we know with the surveys and the issues and the complaints that we've had, and I know that us as a charter commission aren't going to fix a lot of problems, but the issues that were brought up to us were obviously the water issues. So while putting a DPW is great and incorporating highway and water sewer together to kind of consolidate the things, where the issues right now lean towards is water and sewer. So I think while getting a DPW director that would be an engineer would be nice, I believe for the town it would be also somebody that knows exactly what's going on with water treatment plants and how to possibly fix our problems. Now, I'm not saying we can outline that specifically in the charter, but to now, I honestly handicap that person to fall under an elected water sewer commission. Aren't we doing the same thing that we have now?
Well, keep in mind that with the structure of the DPW, in a lot of these towns, with the separate divisions, there are separate superintendents that report to the director of the DPW that head that division.
I'm just saying is right now, if we, I don't want to separate them because I know we're trying to join them together, but water and sewer, right now we're answering to a water sewer commission. We're obviously having issues with it. I know that we're limited on what we can do in the charter. But my question is do we want to put this under a director, have two superintendents, and allow the town council to be the one that set the water rates and the sewer rates, but allow these either superintendents or the director to fix the issues with water, so or make recommendations to fix the water and sewer to town council or whatever need be. I just don't understand if we're going to do all this and join them all together, and we're going to keep a elected water sewer commission. What are we really changing?
Well, that's
So I like,
that's what we're
I like the
discussing.
way
Yeah.
Westwood does it, so I like the idea of having an elected body that actually sets the rates so that you're not leaving it up to the poor employees to come up with the rates, but let the employees do the work and let them manage the actual water and sewer.
Did you say Westwood?
Westwood. So the board of, it's like super short. The Board of Sewer Commissioners shall be responsible for the development of general goals and long-term plans for the town's sewer system and shall also establish the fees, user charges, or rates necessary to fully fund the sewer system operations. And that's it. So it's very aspirational, it's very like, they're not worried about the day-to-day operation of water and sewer, they're just sort of setting those goals.
So can I ask a question about, so one of the things I kept going back to, and I know Lauren was here, I asked her a couple times, is what our current water sewer commission's role is. Because I think there's so much confusion over that, and I still don't know the answer. According to when they came in, they negotiate contracts with incoming developers, set policy on rules and regulations, set water rates and sewer rates. That was from their mouths, right? They weren't handling day-to-day technical operations, and yet, for some reason, I don't know if it's the wording of our charter or what it is, we seem to think that that's what they're doing, right?
That's what it looks like from the charter, that they can do. And like even negotiating contracts, do we want a board to be doing that? Or, you know, do we need to let like the employees who are actually doing day-to-day operations do that?
So I
and
guess
let
my
them-
point is if you take all of that away, right, then do you even need a separate commission, or could you have the town council serve as
Oh,
that
I think you can
commission?
have the town council. I just think it should be somebody other than
Yeah.
the town employees.
Right,
Setting the
so
rates.
I think going to the board of selectmen right now serve as the highway, what's their role?
The road commissioners.
Road commissioners, okay. And so what does that mean? What do they do?
They're my boss.
So how often do you have to go before them for that?
Not very often, unless they have a problem.
So I guess I'm thinking if that's sort of, we made a similar role for water sewer, where they're just setting rates, I mean, getting updates or whatever other things they do.
They can't tell me.
It wouldn't be, what's that?
They can't tell me what to do. They can tell the town manager.
Right.
So I
And that's what
report to
we
the
want,
town.
right? That's what
Right.
we want for the water sewer.
Yeah.
So I feel like the way we have it set up right now for the road commissioners, even though I know it's board of selectmen, town council's different, but if, I don't feel like it's a huge task for them to be water sewer commissioners.
I don't think it is either.
If that's all we're asking them to do.
They report to
I
the
don't
town
think it is
manager
either.
too.
And I feel like if we have a separate commission, I don't have a problem with having a separate commission and having it clearly outlined. But then my question would be, if we're limiting them so much, what are they doing every week or every 2 weeks?
I would say it makes
Right.
sense for the town council, provided that we're not like asking them to attend a separate meeting specifically,
Right, no, I think it would just be
part of their
their
regular
normal-
meetings.
Right,
Yeah.
like you go before them, correct, when you need
Yeah.
something from them? And
Yes.
so that's what the.
Yeah, I would agree.
The town manager would like me.
And the DPW, and if we had a DPW director, he would be going before them for highway things, and now he's gonna go, you're
For all of them.
Right.
For everything.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that.
I'm good with that.
The way I read our current charter is like, they shall have exclusive charge and control of the water department and water system. Like, I don't think an elected board should be in charge of one of our town departments. I think that should be under town manager.
I don't think appointed boards, I don't think.
The town
any-
manager-
Right, that's what I mean. It
why I
should
go
be-
back
they
to-
are an
we keep
employee.
having this
The employees
conversation
do
of,
go to the town manager, the water department.
Yeah,
They,
but the way our charter is written,
Right.
it seems to indicate that the water and sewer commissions could tell the department what to do, which I don't think should.
If we
Yeah.
if we give the town council, because they're elected, the sole responsibility to set the rates, okay? So it gives an answer to the people, if they have an issue, they know who to go to that is setting the water sewer rates. But the day in and day out complicated stuff of treating water, finding out what's going on with the problems we have, should be left to
and I
the
feel
people
like
the
the
town manager
practicality
hires
of that.
and puts in those positions.
I feel like right now, I mean, we've had so many conversations, or heard some people saying, let's go from elected to appointed. I don't think, again, and then we can get people with better technical expertise, I don't feel like they should be making technical decisions, and I don't think realistically, 99% of the time they are. I think they're deferring to the experts, so what they're actually doing is not necessarily what we think they're doing, or what the charter says they're doing. I feel like they're setting rates, they're looking at policy, they're kind of, hopefully, serving as sort of a watchdog, right, in terms of what's going on and questioning. And if that's all we're having them do, then I don't know why they have to go to 2 meetings a month or, have a separate board, elected
Yeah.
or appointed.
My point is that to that is if you have a water sewer commission and you have a DPW director and then you have a superintendent on the water side that is answering to basically two different people. They're answering to a water sewer commission about things that are written in our charter they shouldn't be answering to, but they're also under the control of the town manager. Where if you want to consolidate that, let the town council set the rates because it's a public entity. The taxpayers need a reason to go to and talk to them and say, why the rates going up, what's the issues? Okay. Instead of letting them be set by town employees for, no ramifications. Okay. And then allow the people that the town manager hires for those intricate details of running a water department right now that is growing and has obviously had some issues in the past, and now sewer, which is growing, to be run by the right people. If they're not doing their job, they're solely responsible to the town manager, and the town manager can take repercussions on them not doing their job.
Yeah, I like the idea of having one body, in this case town council, being in charge of both water, sewer, and highway issues, because rather than, like you said, having two separate boards now for one organization, right, for one department.
So a
Also doesn't
subcommittee of the
make sense.
DPW.
What's that?
So it'd be a subcommittee of the DPW specifically.
Or all of them, however they want
it
to
to
do
do
it
it.
right now for,
Well, we were talking about specific subcommittees that we wanted to put within the charter, and that was one of them that we had discussed last week. So we've got the bylaw and rules. The second one was the finance, and the third one that Lauren had mentioned that was predominant in towns that had a DPW is a subcommittee of the DPW.
I don't know that I would mandate that though. I mean, if right now the entire board of selectmen serves as the highway commissioners, they deal with, you know, a few
Maybe just
meetings
tell
right
Lauren
now.
what we're saying that we want and see how she words it, right?
Okay.
And my question would be, is if town council decides that they're gonna be that committee together, and they're gonna interact on those things during the meetings that come up every other week. And if they have a question for the highway superintendent or the water superintendent, or if it may be the DPW director, they request the town manager goes to one of them and says, bring them in, we wanna talk about so-and-so, because this is the issues we're having.
Right.
That's it. And you're not gonna go say, okay, hold on, you gotta talk to the director and the member elected board?
And even the subcommittee, I feel like is an extra layer that, I mean, maybe they decide to do that.
That's
but
crazy.
If we have a subcommittee that is meeting separately,
But is the subcommittee the town council?
Well, let town council decide.
You're just giving them a different name, right?
Well, no, let town
well, I'm
council decide if they
saying,
need
I'm
something.
saying, don't require a subcommittee. I mean, if it,
Just
I would
make it the
imagine
whole
like, okay,
town
right now with all the
Right.
contentious issues that we've been having,
Yeah, I agree, the whole council.
we keep having, the board of selectmen keep inviting the, you know, water superintendent, the commissioners, in to give them updates, right? They all want updates. So let's allow them to have it with the whole council if they want, and if they don't want that, they can create a subcommittee on their
If
own.
need be.
Because they can create whatever subcommittees that, beyond what we put in the charter
Yeah.
on their own if they really.
I
want it.
misunderstood, I thought Laura was using the word subcommittee to be the whole council that's acting as this.
No, I was viewing it as a
A subset of, okay, yeah, no, I would say the whole town council.
It's pointless to me to have somebody that, at this point, I know absolutely nothing about water, but I could go and run for a water sewer commission, and then do some of these things in the charter that I have zero experience on.
Well, and then the
You
other
know.
side of that is that, you know, I think our water sewer commissioners get a lot of flack when, and we say we want technical people. I think we have technical people in there. I think we
Right.
have always had technical people in there. I mean, nobody else wants to sit through those meetings unless you have some interest in that area. And it doesn't, but that's not really, their technical expertise is not really needed because you have the employees, you have the, and now we have another employee on top of that to hopefully manage.
Right, so within the Mass General Law, there is a model water and sewer commission. I'll send this around for people, but specifically, there's a list of the powers that are traditionally granted to a model water and sewer commission. We should probably go through these individually and determine where those powers lie, whether they should be within the water and sewer commissioners, meaning town council, or they should be within the DPW, and go at it from that standpoint. So in a lot of cases, you know, for example, under one of the very first things, and paraphrasing here, within the powers, in a model water and sewer commission is they adopt bylaws related to water. Perfect role for the town council as a water and sewer commission. You know, acquire water rights, any water or water rights, sell, mortgage, lease, transfer, dispose of water rights, you know, enter onto a land to make a survey, you know, are these things that the town council is going to be doing? No, the DPW is going to be doing those. So, within the additional powers is where it is set that they are empowered to fix the rates, fees, assessments, delinquency charges, be required to hold a public hearing on the scheduling of the fees. So those are things that I would foresee that would fall within their authority. So if, instead of just trying to decide all this tonight, I will send around the relevant section and we can discuss next week.
So I guess what level of detail do we need to put in the charter though?
Well, that's the other question. Some of them have next to nothing, and then you have town with respect to DPW or just water and sewer?
Both.
Okay.
Not I shouldn't say water, not a water sewer commission.
Yeah.
Like what we have in our charter. I'm talking about a DP, if we put a section in our charter that says we're gonna create a DPW.
Yep.
How much detail do we really want to include in that, or do we want to leave that up to,
Whoever the superintendent
Yeah.
is, right?
right,
Town
and then
manager.
sort of set up if they want bylaws or, other things like that they need to put into place to.
I agree, I think we need to pick and choose what's the most important that we know we don't want to change, right? Like,
So within all of the charters where there was a DPW, which was almost all of them, most of the language was fairly lean, and I was trying to determine whether it was because a DPW was already in existence at the time of the charter was created or updated, and they just didn't deem it necessary, or they chose to leave it out specifically. Southbridge, which I actually passed around a copy of, and I apologize, it's really tiny writing, but Southbridge was their charter specifically had an entire section devoted specifically to the Department of Public Works.
I think you keep it simple, right? Talk about what's going to be covered under DPW, what roles,
Yeah,
what the superintendent qualifications are, what the superintendent's role is.
yeah. And that goes within the transition, or do we make it a separate section of the charter?
Where does it right now say that the board of selectmen are the highway?
It's in the charter.
In the bylaw.
I mean, the bylaws.
In the
I don't
bylaws?
think it's in the
Yeah.
charter.
Yeah, so, again, I kind of would leave that up to the bylaws once they structure the DPW to put a lot of that language in there and decide what that's gonna look like.
Okay.
So just establish the DPW and identify what they're gonna be responsible for, so that,
What departments they're gonna be.
Water.
And I-
Yeah,
And I personally think, I mean, obviously this could be approached at a later time, but for a transition on this, I think we need to give at least this more leeway than on a set time frame.
so here's my question. If, like you said, it's not gonna happen overnight, right?
Okay.
So, in the meantime, and this is a question for the transition, but just something to think about. In the meantime, is the Water Sewer Commission going to stay in place until the DPW director gets hired, or are we going to get rid of the Water Sewer Commission when we have no DPW director?
Yeah, so that's my question. So I guess why would it take a long time if we're keeping Keith in charge of highway, cemeteries, and whatever, and we're keeping the commissioner in charge of water sewer, then we just have a DPW superintendent above them that they report into? Why would it take a long time to put that in place?
Well, one, you don't have any appropriations right now to hire that DPW director.
That's the biggest part right
And
now.
then two, you're also talking about two different unions that have two different guidelines on what the,
Facilities.
I was gonna say buildings, their buildings are too
You
small
have a
buildings
serious,
right now.
it's gonna take years.
yeah. So you have to, I mean, whether you like it or not, you got two unions for highway and sewer. The town manager's gonna have to negotiate a single contract under the DPW. That's something that's probably not gonna happen from April until July 1st. It's just not.
Why do you have to negotiate a single contract? Because we have multiple contracts today under
Because
town
they're
for
jo-
different types of positions.
Because they're gonna be now doing each other's jobs. to some
Exactly.
extent,
Problem,
Right,
huh?
like your water sewer is to Keith's point, he would love to see the water sewer, folks.
To share
plowing.
roles like when there's times of need and
Right.
stuff like that,
Right.
okay.
We won't be able to go in any of the wells because we're not licensed, you know what I mean? And then, a lot of those guys ain't licensed to drive our trucks.
Right.
So, we're still gonna be divided, but we're gonna have probably a director to watch what's going on.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if we outline the ability for the town manager to incorporate this, I just think that give them some time to work on these different type of things, where it can happen if the appropriated funds aren't there to say, put a director, you still have Keith running the highway, Frank running the water. I say you eliminate water sewer, you put those roles as set rates under the town council and allow the town manager at the time to be that person until the time can come to appoint somebody as a director.
I mean, it would work, because when we have water breaks, we can patch the road and help them, and we have snow plow, they can help us snow plow. So it will work, but it's just getting it together.
I just think it gives the town manager some, whoever that may be. And I'm not saying I want this to be a 10-year plan, but I think if we put it in the charter and say by July 1st, there's just no way it's gonna happen. So you might as well put in a transition plan of this, when, when funds, or whatever the wording has to be from, I'm sure this has happened before where, when it becomes reasonable, or fiscally, as soon as practicable, yeah.
Yeah, what was the town that, said they, I think it was Bridgewater, that said they have a DPW, but they don't have a director, so it's a DPW in name only.
That's what I'm calling it.
Bridgewater.
That could be done.
So you can have that DPW in name even without the director.
And again, if you've got two,
Yeah, it's a consolidation of departments.
if you have two different unions at that time in 2021, agreed to a 3-year contract, they're literally gonna be in the middle of their contract. You're talking about more logistics than just snapping your fingers July 1st and incorporating the DPW, whether you like it or not, that's just what's gonna happen. So if you give them some type of transition plan to allow this to be worked on, Keith and Frank can get together, put some, stuff on paper to figure out how this is all gonna work. The town manager can work out with the unions, possibly a DPW director. Even if it's not a DPW director, you still have a DPW. Town council takes over the issues of setting water rates and being the so-called water or DPW board, but allow the people that are in their jobs that the town managers hired
Superintendents
to do their job.
answer to the town manager.
Exactly.
So does the DPW itself have to wait until the contracts are negotiated, correct? Like you can't
You can
call
still
it-
vote on it, I mean, you still
No,
can.
but I mean, you can't, you don't really have a DPW until the two are together. And the two aren't together until we negotiate that contract?
I don't think so. I think you can still put them under the umbrella of
Right, right.
But they
Department of
just
Public
wouldn't be
Works,
doing
and
each
then they
other's
have their
jobs
own
yet?
divisions underneath DPW as the umbrella. So you start operating as, now in terms of what their duties are, the contracts are gonna,
So their duties are still gonna be separate,
It's under-
right?
I think if they're
Until
separate
until
unions, they're gonna
that's-
have to still have separate contracts, they'd have to have some synergies built into them.
and it's possible that they would want to negotiate before the end of the, we
Well,
don't know.
Again, just give them the ability to do it. I just think like what Keith was saying is, right now, this is what's not gonna change it. You're gonna have people that are certified to treat wells. Guys in your highway department aren't going to now all of a sudden go out and get those licenses. There's no reason for that. You have the employees to treat the wells. On the same thing is you're maybe not gonna have a water employee go out and get a Class A license because there's no need for them to get it. You have certain people that have those types of things, leave it the way it is. But the director can say, we'd like you to encourage you to get this license to do these things because we need help in this, and the direct efforts of where it's needed. We need help in the wells. You can direct somebody from the highway to want to pursue this so we can use you as a,
And if they're not busy, they can mow grass. Right?
Tend to the cemeteries, cut a tree down.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
But that's the part that has to wait until the contracts are.
Well, some of them, they got
Right.
laborers right now, they got laborers, no license, they got car license. So if they're not doing that, instead of riding, painting hydrant, I need them, they should go to the highway department.
Yeah.
Well, if
It all
they need
depends
this-
on what the CBA says.
Yeah, work together.
I just think it gives them some time to work on that, or it gives the ability for the town council to still take some control on that end of it. So it's not just DPW in name, you're still gonna transfer setting rates and stuff like that to town council. We're eliminating the water board and allowing the superintendents to do the technical work that they've been doing anyway, without having to answer to 2 or 3 different, well, at this point, 4 different people, 3 commissioners and a town manager. Answer the town manager, be done with it.
It's gonna be under the town manager anyway.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we can just build it into what the new town manager needs to be doing.
And then the
You
town
say we're not
manager,
gonna do a superintendent and all that?
Eventually.
No,
the
each
water
division,
department-
I imagine there's still a director,
Take
but
all the money.
before we get a director, before we can renegotiate contracts, like, the town manager just needs to figure out how to.
For the transition period.
Yeah. I don't think we need to necessarily figure out like all the nitty-gritty details about the contracts and everything.
Right.
We leave it up to the town manager, and Lauren helps us figure out how to best transition that.
It'd be something like this, if the town manager decides that out of the water enterprise account, that there's enough money built in to hire an engineer, so they're not going out, outsourcing the other engineer, well, then that's what should be able to be done.
We'll hire a superintendent with an engineering background, right?
I'm just saying in general, like if water and sewer right now is spending X amount of dollars on engineering, and it's gonna, and I'm not saying it is or it isn't, I don't know this, but if it's cost beneficial to the town to hire a permanent engineer to do that type of work, that's stuff that can be done under this director of the DPW.
Right, you'd use that as your argument to be able to put the superintendent in place. You'd say, you're gonna save X number of dollars here by putting.
He's saying we could actually, they could also possibly hire an engineer.
As a separate position.
If they found,
It was
if they could
cost
prove that
savings.
it was a cost savings, yeah. I don't know how you, I mean, that would be a tough proof, but I think.
And again, I don't know the numbers, but I'm just saying, if the water department right now is using money out of the enterprise account to use Weston and Sampson, wherever they use, and they're spending X amount of dollars a year on engineering and stuff like that could be done by.
Right, but I guess I would rather use that for the superintendent role, if someone that, the background that can still do that work, but also be the superintendent. You know what I'm saying?
I totally agree, but that's what I'm saying, if
Yeah.
the town manager decides that that's what's more cost efficient, because it's under DPW, to use water enterprise accounts to hire an engineer, so we're not outsourcing every single time to go to a private company. I'm not saying that that's the case, but if it is, that's a decision that should be made at the town manager's level in conjunction with the two superintendents. Not,
I don't know that you're gonna find a DPW director who also, like an engineer who also wants to be a DPW director. Like, there's a difference between someone saying, I wanna be a town engineer, versus an engineer saying, I wanna be a DPW director. So I don't know that they're interchangeable. You know what I mean? Like, you're saying, we'll just hire the DPW director who's an engineer. You may
It's a lot of
may not
administration.
find that person.
Aren't several ones on the list here that they said the superintendent was in?
There's a couple.
Yeah.
It happens, but you've got to find an engineer who wants to deal
Right.
with administration and HR.
and people,
Right.
employees.
Yeah. That's
'Cause
probably.
we're never gonna get both
That's-
separate roles. I'll tell you that right now. Well, you might as well just say, save yourself a call on superintendent and just say, we're never gonna get both, because that's not gonna happen.
I just think, I don't think we pigeonhole.
It's not for us to decide at the
Exactly,
end of the day.
exactly. Let us get the DPW as a thing and let it work out where it's gonna work out. If they put the job out with the qualifications of an engineer, and a person comes in with the engineering degree and works out a contract, so be it. If it doesn't, and it stays two superintendents for a while, but we can get some control under the town council where to set these rates, at least it addresses some of the problems we've been having in these surveys of what's going on here. And I think one of the major problems is who's answering to who. You've got a board of you've got a water sewer commission, you've got a superintendent, and then you got a town manager. And you're having all three of these fall in of who's actually in charge of what. Right now, you give the town council the ability to set the rates, and the rest of it falls on the superintendent and the town manager. Now the townspeople know where the issues are. That's it.
Okay, all right. So, for tonight, I think we have determined that within the charter, we are going to, probably within the transition section, create or allow for the creation of a DPW with a director whose qualifications will be defined as per.
Aren't we gonna then chart itself though too?
I think we
What's
want it in
that?
the charter, and then the transition, we'll talk about how we,
Yeah, I think we want
Come up
some
with that.
language in the charter, in the charter
Okay.
itself, to say that there's gonna be a DPW.
Okay.
Yeah.
Creation of a DPW with a director with qualification that outlines that the town council will act as the water and sewer commissioners, and
And outlines what-
whatever those powers are, we will work through next week and make that determination.
I was gonna say, it outlines what falls under DPW, what rules. Sanitary,
The divisions.
tree, yeah.
Yes.
Well, not necessarily divisions, but just what functions.
yeah, I
That's
don't
what-
think we need
that's
to
what-
define what the divisions are, but.
Within a DPW, that is typically out of the 12 towns that I looked at, 11 refer to DPW as having divisions, with the exception of, I forget who it was, and even then, they had, areas that we oversee, which could be construed as divisions. So just to use kind of a common terminology, that's,
Yeah, I mean, I would say areas to be overseen, but I wouldn't necessarily specify what the divisions would look like.
Yeah, I like the way Sub
not what they
mentioned it.
look like, but it will encompass the divisions of water, sewer, highway, tree, cemetery.
Could even be parks and rec, but,
Yeah. In some cases it is.
yeah.
You know, well, that's an example. So currently,
So if you have
do we have any
DPW,
public, like the pool? You maintaining that?
swimming pool,
Okay. Edith Reed falls within conservation, that's not a good example. Do we have any town fields that are specifically owned by the
Playgrounds,
town?
fields.
yeah, I do some, I do the
Ball
playgrounds.
fields.
Okay, so,
So I'm kind of recreating.
yeah.
I think the ball fields for the most part are maintained by the sports that are using
Yes.
them, right?
Yeah.
The playgrounds probably you do.
Yep.
So, outdoor town-owned public spaces, or some clarification thereof. We can tweak the language.
I'd say it's maybe DPW, they can put what they want,
Yeah.
DPW division.
Well, we want to, yeah. They can grab more in as they see fit. Okay. All right, so for the next week, I will send around the Mass General Law, the Water and Sewer Commission. I will probably send it out with the agenda, if you can take a look at it in advance of the meeting and come prepared to talk about the specific powers and what we want to assign to the town council as Water and Sewer Commission, and what we want to retain under the DPW, either the specific division or the director itself.
Can we all, I mean, I think in general, we want to think about what we would want to put in the charter, right?
Yes.
So I don't necessarily think we want to go through everything and say who gets assigned what. I think we want to pick out what we feel needs to go in the charter.
Correct, and that's what I'm viewing as the duties of the water and sewer.
I guess I don't see us getting that specific.
Okay. Are you gonna say who sets the water rates?
I'm gonna, again, I think there's a couple things that we had said, Carrie had said earlier, that I was fine with that language. That
Okay.
just setting the water rate and a couple other things, and then leave everything else up to bylaw and everything, you know.
Okay, so do we not wanna go through the model water and
I think it's still worth looking at, just to make sure that we're not
missing
missing any
anything?
big gaps, but I mean, keep it simple, but I just look at it, make sure that not.
I
we're
just
thinking about all the
I don't wanna
different
go,
pieces.
I guess, line by line through everything and try to
Yeah,
decide
it's-
where it
it's
should
not-
go. I just wanna
yeah.
kind of come up with a language that's in the other charters that we see.
Okay.
And not
Yeah, there's bare
include all the
bones.
duties that, yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at, the charters and what they
Yeah,
have.
other than Southbridge, very, very bare bones with respect to the,
They can set
if there's
stuff.
even a reference to the Water and Sewer Commission.
To the DPW, you mean?
Yes, sorry.
You mean by setting like the bare bones stuff, that then the DPW can add bylaws and whatnot
Right,
if need
yeah.
be?
For the details, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the only thing I really care about is who sets the water rates.
Yeah.
And I can send this language around.
Yeah. That's,
It's just broad policy.
yeah, I found something in,
Did it include
I think there was another one that we had.
Appeals in that?
I'm sorry?
Did it say appeals also?
Appeals?
Yeah.
No.
I think typically.
People appealing like their water bill?
the East Long Meadow, I liked, their wording too.
No, because the billing would be done by the staff.
I thought you had to go,
So,
because, you know, you complain that,
if
I
the
don't know,
rate
there's
is
a leak in my
wrong.
front lawn and
Yeah.
I didn't cause it.
Right now, they handle it.
That,
I
yeah,
thought they
that
did.
that would be the department, not the.
The DPW.
Oh, really?
That would be,
The water department, because they'd be doing the billing, not the water and sewer commission.
right now, it's the Water Sewer Commission.
That
That
handles,
does the
Appeals?
Appeals,
Yeah.
oh, really?
I mean, it's like,
Sorry, I thought we were
it's
talking
like-
about billing.
It's like your tax appeals, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, like David said, if somebody has a leak and they're complaining that they,
You have to,
um,
you're going from the water commission.
go to the water commission. So I think they should still go in front of an elected board,
Yeah.
Right.
which is the town council.
Well, having an elected board set the rates is the most fair for the town, its people,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has to be.
100%.
Yeah, it should be. I just thought appeals also fell on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one doesn't specify. I don't know if some of the other ones do.
Well, I think if they're setting the rates, then the voters can decide whether or not, you know what I mean? The voices be heard.
Yeah, I think it's more of a subjective decision when it comes to that.
Yeah, right.
You know, which to me feels like it
Comes
should be
to
more.
feels,
so,
yeah.
Okay. Let's agree with that.
And again, they're gonna take input from,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Right. It doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah.
to me, I think you want to have the soft touch with the town council making that decision.
I agree.
The town employee moving one way or the other.
Okay. I'm fading.
It's late.
I know, and there's still one more thing we need to discuss.
Oh,
Sorry, I know.
I already closed my folder.
I know. I've noticed that this one's been packing up. Specifically related to kind of education and outreach, there's been a lot more notice of decisions that have been made or questions as to what decisions have been made. Jamie did a really good job of negotiating somebody who had a question on the last, I forget if it was in the minutes or the charter. But there is within our town web page, there is an update section. And I was considering updating that to make people aware of the changes within the legislative branch that had been decided. But within that, I was wondering if, and I'm thinking for future planning, when it's a year from now and we've got to have a public hearing and we're going to have, more outreach and be promoting the changes, and we may not necessarily be as young as we once were and remember all of the rationale for some of the decisions that were made. I'm wondering if we should start keeping track specifically of the rationale for some of the decisions, specifically related, the more tricky ones related to the legislative branch and how we arrived at town council, how we arrived at large versus by precinct, how we decided terms and staggering and that sort of thing. And whether we make that available as, we make maybe a PowerPoint slide for each section, make it available on the web page that people can refer to, and that we can then refer back to a year from now when we're trying to remember how and why we made some of these decisions. So wanted to.
So just a thought that might be easier and less burdensome to go about getting, but perhaps could we just do like a summary of this is the list of decisions we made on this night, and here's a link to the video. This is a list of the decisions we made on this night, and here's a link to the video, so they can see all that back and forth discussion without trying to summarize all of that minutia in a.
Yes, I'm thinking at least for the purposes of the update on the webpage, here's just an outline of what we've decided, and then refer them to those decisions were discussed in the meetings of between these dates. Please go to the Norton Media Center to watch them. I'm not talking about for the purposes of documenting it on the update section. I am thinking in terms, again, of keeping track of the rationales that were made for the decisions, so that a year from now, when we're in front of people and they're asking why, and we're going, I don't remember why we did that.
Oh, so for like our own internal purposes?
Yes,
okay.
And for future outreach and education.
So basically, like starting, whatever PowerPoint presentation we're going to present at the public hearing,
Yes.
once we're done, let's start it now so that we remember what
Kind
the
of,
notes
yes,
are.
let's keep an active
Yeah.
list of it.
So I liked what North Attleboro did with their FAQ,
Okay.
and they took the things that they were getting a lot of questions on, and thought were more contentious, and they put rationale. I would
Were they the ones that
hesitate
addressed
to.
the specific things within their surveys?
What's that?
Were they the ones that addressed like the specific things within their surveys that they found?
I'm just talking about like they put in, why don't we have a FinCom? why do, they put specific questions of decisions they made, why did we decide this, why did we decide that? I'm fine with drafting it now. I don't know that I want to put it out yet, because I feel like we're still deciding things.
Working on it, yeah.
And we could go back and say, hey, I think that was crazy, and we're gonna revisit
Change
it.
it.
and
No,
change
I
it.
agree.
Plus,
So
once
that's
we
what,
get
you
the
know.
draft, we decide to change things again.
And I think
Yeah.
the whole picture is really important too, rather than piecemeal, right? That if
Okay.
there's something that we know is gonna come up as a question later, why
Yep.
did you do this? I don't have a problem with drafting some language and writing it down and keeping some notes.
An
I just-
archive.
But I just don't wanna put it out anymore yet.
Okay.
So I
So
did
what
have
do you
somebody ask me.
feel about, I would just like there to be a commonplace,
I mean, like town Dayton does a good job of, like, for their town meetings, for instance, they'll have a column for the agendas, a column for the meeting minutes, and then a column for the videos. And all you have to do is go and look at it, you can click on the links for each one of them and see all of that, like, something similar to that, where you just have, here's the agenda, here's the meeting minutes from the meeting that we ran, and here's the, or even if you want to get more detailed, here's the decisions that we made, not maybe not the meeting minutes, but these are the things we decided on, and here's the link to the video,
Or maybe just discussed.
or discussed, yeah.
Because I think Sandy's got a good point, like, we've told Lauren what to come up with, but we still need to approve what's been written, and we might change our mind after we
Yeah,
see
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and
I mean, we could get into it and a month from now, we can say, is 7 really enough? Do we need 9?
Right,
In terms of town councilors.
right.
So to Sandy's point, like, yeah, I get it. It does make sense. I'm just trying to think of a way that's not, so that we're not responding to individual emails, we're not having to get engaged in discussions on social media. I'm trying to,
So I think, I got an email as well from somebody who came, one of our interviews, and that's exactly what I did, what Denise said. I said, here's the videos that we discussed this, here's, because she, I think, saw where we decided, the last meeting we decided, that was last meeting, or the meeting before, we made all these
Right.
decisions,
And
but we
didn't have
had
any
discussions.
discussions.
And I'm like, okay, here are the discussions, these are the meetings, and I pointed her to the video, like the snippets that, and I said, it's kind of a long one, but I think it's a great conversation to hear, and I don't want to summarize it wrong, so, if you have a chance to view it.
Yeah.
And they were, super appreciative of that, watched the videos, and I think got more out of that than anything I could have put down. And I said, we're certainly open to, after you watch the videos, give us your feedback, let us know what you're thinking, and I'll bring it forward to the commission, and,
Did you hear anything back?
she was like, thanks, that was helpful, watching and seeing both sides of it, so.
how do can we put something like that preemptively, I guess, on our webpage?
I'm not sure how, I feel like anybody who's already had a question, that's the question, right?
Okay.
Like, if they see something at a meeting tonight and they say, I have a question on this, they're gonna get individual questions. I don't think we're getting, we got 2 on Facebook, I got 1.
I got 1.
Well, it was the same one as on Facebook, so that's really just the 3 people.
No, he sent me a separate,
No, but I mean, it's the same person, it's still 3
Yeah.
people, right?
yeah.
So
He's
we're
got a
not-
lot of questions.
We're not talking about hundreds of people that are reaching out to us, that
Yeah.
I feel like it's,
Okay, all
super
right.
cumbersome right now. I feel like if we did have
Yeah.
a ton of people reaching out, then maybe we need to revisit that, but.
Okay, is everybody else comfortable with that?
I would agree with that, and I also think that it's not a bad idea to keep a running list of things that we know we're gonna have to address when the time comes.
Yes.
Right, and I agree about not putting it out right now, because you're right, we don't really have anything solid.
Yeah.
It's, answering the questions as they come in. I think we're all doing a pretty good job of that. So I wouldn't put anything out. But we do also have the 15 minutes. I'm trying to let everybody know, anytime they want to come down. Nobody's been, I guess, angry enough or
Not beating down our
moved
door.
enough by any
Yeah.
decision we've made to come down any further, because we do always have that 15 minutes. And I say keep prompting that, posting that. I'd love to see someone come in.
Yeah. I
And
think,
we can have that open dialogue.
if people get things like specific, mine was just literally a question, why did you choose this? That was the whole email. But if we get more involved, suggestions or whatever, if we can just put those out so that we all have them or discuss them at the meeting. I think that's, okay.
So I don't think I shared your response to, I don't even remember who had submitted yours. I'll send yours around. I still owe some answers to Mr. Lofgren.
So I'll say, I don't know, I don't need to know who maybe the questions came from, but is there a common topic that they're all asking the question about?
Mine was about, well, I've actually a couple, about the precincts. She was asking what decisions, if we had made decisions on this, and this, and then expressed her opinions on the precincts. And I said, well, rather than me getting into it, can you just watch these videos? That's where we really got into the discussion. You'll hear both sides. And then after you watch it, if you have any follow-up, I'd be happy to share it with the commission.
Mine was related to reconsidering the compromise of no more than 2 counselors from any precinct. So I still have to go back to address that.
I'm just wondering if there's because there's kind of a common theme to it, so we'll know
In
that
those,
will be,
those-
right?
Yeah,
That will be an area that we focus.
Right.
That'll be an
Yeah.
area that we focus probably a good portion of our
Yeah.
education and outreach on,
Yeah.
right?
But I still think we should probably be keeping an archive of the rationale within some of these discussions so that we're not scrambling a year from now and having to go back and watch our meetings because we don't remember. So to that end, does somebody want to volunteer for that? Very, very exciting and rigorous job.
Volunteer for what, sorry?
Keeping an archive of the rationale for the decisions. Or do the minutes
I was just going to ask,
suffice?
I feel like if I can include anything else you want me to include, but I know for some of the discussions where we have major discussion on it, I do try to put that into the minutes, the
Okay.
rationale. I guess that would be maybe a starting point. So if people look at those and say, you missed this, and this, can you either, you don't have to put it in, go back and put it in the minutes, but
Yeah.
we could start with what's in the minutes and
Yeah,
build
my
on that.
concern with the minutes is, we had, literally discussed the same exact thing in 3 different meetings, and it covers 3 different sets of minutes, as opposed to just being in a consolidated place. But I think if we're in agreement that the minutes are sufficient, I'll concede the point.
I mean, I can cut and paste them all in the same document, the starting point, like I said. I think for the precincts, I went through pros and cons, right, on
Yeah.
each side.
Okay.
Tried to capture everything there.
Do you want me to try to do like a summary of like what was discussed at each meeting and then like a link to the video for each one? Something like that?
I think only if we're looking to publish that, I'm not. Or make
And that
that
would be the minutes, we could just include a link
In the minutes.
in the minutes or
Yeah.
near the minutes on the website.
Having read
Or-
Sandy's response to, and I don't remember who it was, she did a very nice job of saying, here's what was discussed, and here's the reference, here's the link to the meeting in which that was discussed, or the 2 meetings in which that was discussed, and this other thing was discussed here, and this is why, and, so I think Sandy may have actually already done that within, the response to the email, so that may be sufficient. I will send it around, but maybe we do develop it into kind of a rote response. Thanks for asking. Here's a one-pager.
Kind of a formula for how to respond.
Yeah. So if you want to take a crack at that, once I send the email around.
I don't get any questions without that. I'm like, come on.
The questions are in there.
Get them in person.
Yeah, no, the questions are all in there, so, okay.
I kind of like Sandy's idea, cutting and pasting, making decisions, which I think are pretty much in the minutes. Coming up with mine. Because I had a conversation, I had a conversation the other day with somebody from the FinCom, and we started to get, we started off kind of high level, and then we started to drill down a little bit, and I was kind of like, he said, well, so why did you decide that? And I don't know. It was a little tough to answer that question, because you could remember the context of it all.
Yeah. And how much have you had to drink?
It was him.
Come on, let's be honest.
But yeah, once you get into that, because there was a lot of discussion on that particular topic. I think it was how do we select the members of the FinCom subcommittee, who's got the responsibility to make the selection?
Yeah.
And then only that, but like, why? And then, like, is that what we have today? And, you know, as we go.
Yeah.
And,
It's especially when you're face to face with somebody, it's very hard. Kind of not necessarily thinking on your feet, but recalling on your feet.
yeah, exactly.
All right, hang on, because we talked about this like.
I guess I'm
Oh, yeah.
thankful that
trying-
nobody asked me
And I
questions.
was trying not to be like, I mean, I clearly had a bias, right? I mean, that was a contentious vote, and I didn't want to throw out that, so that's why I was saying just watch the video, you know, I'm not gonna try to, summarize it
Yeah,
myself.
but I don't think we're gonna, once we get into this, I think, like you said, I mean, you gotta get a live one. I don't think that's become practical at some point, because.
Oh, watch the video, yeah.
Yeah, I just.
Well, and I don't think we talked, to be honest, we had that FinCom conversation over a couple meetings, and we also have been listening to that, you know, you can't really point to a specific meeting where we had this
Right.
long dialogue and conversation, so if you just watch that meeting, it kind of looks like we just came to a snap judgment, right, we listened to the town managers from Bridgewater and Foxborough, we talked to different people. All of that, I think, went into that decision, but you can't really point to a video.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. There
And
was
that's
a
easier to
video.
write up because it was unanimous, right? So at least then, I feel like we could definitely come up with some good rationale for.
This is an ongoing process. I mean, we're taking everything into consideration when we make these decisions, so it's tough to say it happened on this date at this time.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
We interviewed how many people? All of that went into factoring in this interview.
Right, they're not aha moments like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
that's all
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about not publishing anything because we're not getting a lot of questions, but it sounds like at least half of the room has gotten questions already. Like, at what point do you call it a lot of questions?
I guess at the point, I mean, when we feel like we can't handle it anymore, right?
Yeah.
You did it, I did it.
Where it's-
You did it.
Yeah.
I mean, at the point where one-on-one, you just can't handle it. You have that conversation, at some point, we just say.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
Yeah,
something else.
it's, so far it's manageable.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Keep
Looking
going
at-
on.
Oh, yes.
All right, so I won't do anything on the website. We'll take the questions as they come, we'll revisit if we need to. I will send around the email of Sandy, if you could try and put together a kind of a one-pager that, you know, if you have questions on this, here's the,
A formula for how to answer.
exactly. Or where to find it, in which meeting to find it, and a link to the meeting. And we'll go from there. Next meeting is March 9th. We have Lauren's availability. She has promised us a first draft of, I believe, the at least legislative, if not part of the executive as well. Did she promise us both or just legislative?
I don't think she was specific. I think she said she's going to get to draft.
Okay, so we'll have a first draft on March 2nd, which is around the time we'll be sending around the agenda, so hopefully I will have it in time to send with the agenda. We're gonna finish up the DPW next week. The next thing on the list says other changes in the org chart.
It says where I'm at.
What-
Is that
What are you
under,
looking at?
what's that?
What are you looking at?
The
Oh, that.
decisions to be made. And I'm wondering if, so we've got to come up, other changes in the org chart, which I think was under like general admin, right?
We don't really have to.
Okay, so I'm gonna take that out, it
Complete.
just says other changes within the org chart, so we
Say
can.
completed.
All right, I'll mark it as green. Next up is the budget process. Now, we are going to have a draft to review with so do we feel like I told Lauren we would give her a heads up if we felt we needed her in a specific meeting coming up. Do we feel that we need her for March 9th if she's giving us a draft of the charter on the 2nd?
I thought that's why she was giving it to us, so we can talk to her about that on the night.
Okay. I didn't know whether we wanted to have a discussion and just go back to her with edits, or we want her there. If, I'm fine if we want her there, I just want to make sure we're not wasting her time. And do we want to take on the budget process then, or do we want to maybe jump ahead to boards and committees? I feel we haven't really talked about which ones are going to go in the charter. We have talked to some extent about who appoints them, but whether we want to change any from elected to appointed and vice versa. So, do we want to take on the budget process, or do we want to talk about boards and committees next with Lauren?
Boards and committees is shorter.
What's that?
I think boards and committees is a lot quicker.
I think so, and especially if we're reviewing the first draft of the charter and we're finalizing the DPW and Water Sewer Commissioner rules specifically, that might be a less unwieldy meeting. And
I think
putting
now
off-
is kind of an interesting time to think about the budget, because we're going through it right now.
I
So
know.
I've been, a little more attuned to
Yeah.
what's
It is
going
only
on.
putting it off for 2 weeks. So it would be putting it off to March 23rd. We are still well into budget season. Does anybody have a strong preference?
I'm going to be selfish because I have to miss the next meeting for work.
Okay.
So pushing the budget off until the next one.
Okay. You okay with that?
Yeah, sounds fine.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna change the order of this. So next meeting, like I said, we're gonna finish up DPW. We will start boards and committees. Lauren will be there, and we will review the first draft of the charter and go over any questions that she has for us. Anything else we need to talk about tonight? Everybody tired? Want to go home?
Yeah.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.